All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Critchlow. Welcome to, sorry, welcome to Homeschooling 101. I see a lot of people here in the chat. This is awesome. So, welcome to Homeschooling 101. So, let me just tell you. So, as I already introduced myself, my name is Gabrielle Critchlow. I am the owner and director of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We're the ones that are putting on this event for you today. So let me just tell you what the purpose is of this workshop. So the purpose, workshop slash webinar, excuse me. So the purpose of this webinar is to connect parents to the world of homeschooling and to expose them to the different types of education that is out there. So since the pandemic began in 2020, there's been a surge of demand in homeschooling due to either the lack of remote learning or just the dissatisfaction with the school system. So about a couple years ago, this is the fifth time that we've done this, but about a couple years ago, we talked about the removal of certain topics from the school system, such as no, with critical race theory and sex education. So now last year it was book banning, health scares, and changes in school policy. So now this year it's school shootings, bullying, inaccurate teaching of Black history or all the other types of ethnic history, Asian culture, Latino culture, teacher shortages. Although these are not new issues, but it seems to be popping up a lot more, especially now that we are in an election cycle. So, whatever your reason for homeschooling, whether you are new to this or you are seasoned, this event is for you. So you might have heard about homeschooling, whether in a positive or negative light, and you just want to know what all the fuss is about, right? You may be homeschooling right now and you want more information. You have questions, and we're here to answer them to the best of our abilities. This workshop is part of our mission at A Step Ahead to tackle the academic challenges of all students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. And in doing so, we believe that we will improve our communities in the process. So you are here, those of you watching right now, you are here with us in person, but the replay will be available on our social media and our website soon. And you're watching this on StreamYard. The replay will be available as soon as we are done. So whatever you missed, don't worry. You could always watch the replay, and this information will be available to you. So I do want to caution you guys that the laws about homeschooling are different in each state and each country. Because I know I have some internationals with us today, and we intended for this event to be very general. So while we will do our best to answer any questions that you have, we encourage you to research the specific laws of your state and of your country. So we'll provide you with some resources that will help you with all of that. All right, so let's get into the breakdown of today. So let me just tell you the questions that we're going to answer today. So we broke up this workshop into 6 questions. So I'm going to tell you what those questions are. So the first question is, what is homeschooling? We're just going to right into it. Boom. What is homeschooling? The next one is, what is a homeschool co-op? Then it's, what are some teaching strategies I can use? Then it's, what is the paperwork involved and how does standardized testing work? Then it's, how do you choose a curriculum? And we will wrap it up with, how do homeschool children get into college? So that is the order of our event today. So all questions we're going to answer at the end of the program, but feel free to post your questions now in the chat. This is an interactive program, so post those comments, give me those emojis, type those questions, type away. We will answer those questions at the end of the event. And there is a raffle. There's some cool prizes that we're raffling off. So I pinned the web link to the top of the chat. So make sure you check that out and sign up for our raffle. There's been great donations by my partners. So make sure you check it out. You may win a prize. Who knows? So take the time and fill out the raffle. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. So make sure you do that. So again, I just want to reiterate that this event is pretty general in terms of the laws about homeschooling. So we do encourage you to research the specific laws of wherever you are located. This workshop is intended to be very general. But hopefully you guys are able to take a lot of information today, and let's get started. Let's get right into it. All right, so we're going to start off with our first question. We are just going to dive right into it. So the question that we're going to answer today, first up, is what is homeschooling? So the panelist who is going to answer that question for us, her name is Waletha Garrett, and we love to call her Wally, so that is her government name, Waletha Garrett. So let me just tell you about her. So she is our first speaker for today, and Wally is a driven entrepreneur, mother of three, and the founder of Affiliate Girl 2023 LLC, where she connects people with the best products through her passion for affiliate marketing. With a background in sales and a natural flair for marketing, Waletha has built a business centered around authenticity, trust, and creativity. Known for her candid personality and positive energy, she enjoys sharing her favorite finds while helping others discover new products through her curated recommendations. Outside of her business, Waletha cherishes her time with her family, spontaneous, spontaneous adventures, and the joy of thrift shopping. All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and bring Wally to the stage. Hey, Wally, how you doing,
Thank
girl?
you. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Awesome. So you're out of the gate. You're the
I'm
first one. All right.
Yay!
All right, let's do it. So, what is homeschooling? Take it away.
So, homeschooling. What people may remember this, or you may not. Back in the day, people did not have choices of schools, or they lived so far away from schools. So guess what they had to do? They had to homeschool. And some of their parents didn't have a lot of education, but a lot of people made sure they read, they know how to do basic math, things of that nature. That is basically homeschooling. Homeschooling now is so prevalent and now is not frowned upon that people now are saying, this is not a bad idea. So, homeschooling is when you take your child either from the time they were born and you keep them home to school them, or they have done part of schooling inside of a public school, maybe a private school. My children came from a charter school and decided at some point we're going to bring them home to school. So, homeschooling used to be kind of like a stigma of either, oh, that child and their parent think they're so smart they can't mingle with us, or really, are they really learning because you're not a certified teacher? But really, that's what it's about. It's about you taking your child out of traditional school and putting them in school at home. Now, each person is different. So I'll use my children as an example. They came from a charter school. They've been going to school all the way from pre-K up until about third, fourth, fifth grade of charter school. And so when I went through a situation, which was a divorce, I decided to move back home. When I moved back home, it was in the middle of the summer. I'm the type of person, I like to vet my schools. I like to make sure my children are going somewhere where I think is safe, and not only safe, but also has a great educational piece. So it was going to take me more time to vet the schools. So I said, you know what? Let's try homeschool. I just did a quick Google. Had no idea what I was doing. I'm going to let y'all know that. And we went out. We went out on it. And so I patterned my homeschooling that first year after their schedule from the charter school. That was great, but I'm gonna tell y'all that was so stressful. I thought I was gonna pull all the rest of my hair out, and they too, because I was running it just like a traditional school. Okay, 7:30 we're doing this, 8:30 we're doing this, and I was thinking, really, is this really what homeschool is about? You know, because I could have just threw them in a school, I guess, at this point. So I did some more research. I am in Florida, so I found out that Florida's more laxed with their homeschool laws. Like, you don't have to be so specific. You don't have to necessarily take such a stringent um, attendance. And so basically in my county, you know, I have a certain way that I have to approach them each year about my children in school, and that's it. And so I decided last year to start unschooling. Unschooling is where you let the child just kind of drift along and you pick subjects for that child. And so when that child loves science, then you gear towards science. You may have more science projects. You may make math to science. You just kind of pick something to where they're more interested in, and then you pipe in the subjects there. Like, for instance, my son loves science and he loves math. So I tend to give him more math to do as far as farther along than my girls. My girls are like me. We are not math people, and that's okay. But at least they would know the basics of math, but they may not move on to algebra, trigonometry, and such like my son. Okay. So that's one aspect. You can mix homeschooling. You can do online schooling and you can also do homeschooling. So you can take what your state has and do like a virtual online and then do what you have at home and mix it together. Or you can just pick a curriculum that someone is going to talk about later and pick a school that will be like your head school over you, but they're still homeschool. And I find that there are so many benefits that outweigh the cons in homeschool, because now children in homeschool can participate in public activities. So my son, for instance, started football and he is playing in a community league right now. But when he turns 16 and does high school, then I can put him in the high school that we're zoned for, and he can play for that public high school while still being homeschooled. My girls are also in gymnastics, and so I can keep them in gymnastics. And one that's on team now, she could possibly go to college and do gymnastics and get a scholarship. Homeschool is what you feel that your children need, not what you feel that the state thinks that they need. It's what you believe they need. Because guess what, parents? You are the principal, the teacher, the cafeteria lady, the bus driver, the everything. And so, with that being said, pick something that is going to help you and your children be successful in school. Don't pick what you think would work, pick what you know that works. As I have unschooled this season, this has been the best year so far since I've been homeschooling. And not only that, I have joined a great homeschooling group in the area. They do a lot of activities, a lot of field trips. They even have winter dances, prom, end of the school year party, things of that nature. So then they don't feel left out. They don't feel like they don't have a social life. They actually feel like, hey, I have a group of kids that I can relate to just as if I was in a building. Remember, school is about here and here. You don't have to be in a building to have school. I know a lot of times we're outside doing school. Some days like today, I had no school. Why? Because we have been running so much between football and gymnastics. Literally, the past 3 weeks, we have been going from in the morning until 9 o'clock or so at night without a break of anything. And so I said, you know what, today, everyone gets a lazy day. Okay. That's the privilege of doing homeschool. You don't have to do 8 to 5. You don't have to do Monday through Friday. And I do school, y'all, year round. So we don't even have necessarily a stop day. I just give them a break like Christmas time, a little break in the summer, a little break for spring. Like, I do little breaks, but we still do school year round. And I try to make it fun. I try to have my son help my daughters with math, things of that nature. So look at it as this: a school outside of a building. that is going to benefit not only yourself in the end, but your children. Because you're going to learn later in the program, they can still go to college. There are a lot of curriculums out there. I will tell you, this past year, I used a lot of old school books. I went to the thrift store and got books just so they would actually read more versus being on the computer. So this time I'm going to switch it around as we start in January. I'm going to do more computer with less books because I feel like reading is so important in every aspect. But just think of it like this. There's always, and one of the topics is co-ops. That's a good subject. There's always a group that you can connect with. There are a lot of groups in your areas, but pick the group that's going to once again benefit you and your children. Remember, what you know as a parent, your children need to know. If you ever need professional help, you can actually hone in on resources in the community. Huntington has a lot of centers. Sylvan has a lot of tutors. You can even go to the schools now and ask for tutors that are high schoolers or college age tutors. And so don't feel like you're left out there just to try to figure it out. Just know there's always someone that knows a little bit more information than you. And I'm gonna tell you, I love learning. So I'm always asking questions like, what else can I do to make homeschooling more fun, more beneficial, to make it more to where they're ready for the outside world? Just because they haven't gone to a building all of their life for schooling doesn't mean they're not ready. It just means they got a little bit more one-on-one attention, smaller classroom attention, and that they got to be at home in the parks on a school trip with others in the same boat that they are in, so they don't feel like an outsider, but yet they can still participate in different things, as I mentioned before, such as sports. So it's not that they're left out anymore. Homeschooling is not what it used to be. Homeschooling is actually, believe it or not, I think that more people are jealous of, because I have a lot of parents that are like, oh my gosh, can you teach my kids? I would love for them to be homeschooled. And, as much as I love my children, I'm going to tell you right now, my children are enough for me. So I just always say, hey, try to find a co op, which someone will speak about again later in the program. But just know that homeschooling is now very much needed. I feel like we need more children homeschooled, and I feel like we need more education on it. And the more education that I think a lot of people will embrace it more. And so just know that homeschooling does not mean that you're stuck at home and you have to be in those four wall schooling. It just means that you are going to take your child out of traditional learning, out of that building, and put them in a world of their own where they can learn on their own and with their own family, and to know themselves a little better in regards to they will have more attention. Some children thrive in homeschooling, some children thrive more in traditional learning. I tell everyone, do what you feel is best for your child. And I feel for my children at this age, I have a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and 10-year-old. They are better off homeschooling. They get the same type of teaching, but I can take more time. I don't have to rush. That's another thing with homeschooling. You can take your time. You don't have to rush. You don't have to have them they have to be at this certain point. You can go back and review, and you can again reach out. I cannot express enough about resources. And I love to talk, and Gabrielle knows that. So she better put a timer on me because I would talk all day. I love homeschooling, and I hope this helps you to decide if this is for you. And I hope it is. And everyone that knows me, and I'll let you know if you don't know me, you can always reach out to me and ask questions. I will be glad to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I will be glad to reach out to someone that does. Thank you for this opportunity, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day.
Awesome, awesome. Wally, thank you so much. Where's my sound
You're
effect? Let me
welcome.
get my applause sound effect. I had to break out the sound effect. All right, so thank you, Wally, so much. And thank you for the segue because the next question is about a homeschool co op. All right, so thank you again. Put you backstage now. All right, you guys. So I hope you guys took a lot from that. She gave you a wealth of information right out the gate. All right, so we're going to segue into our next question, which is what is a homeschool co-op? So we're going to get into that. So as Wally was talking about the different types of homeschooling that are out there, this is another version that you can do. So we're going to get into that. So the speaker who is going to answer that question for us, his name is Darren Jones. And let me tell you about Darren. So Darren Jones has worked at the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, which is commonly known as HSLDA, since 1996, first as a legal assistant and then as an attorney in various capacities. He has defended homeschool families in court, sued overreaching government officials, and worked with legislators around the country to improve homeschool law. Most of his time in the last 5 years, he has spent advising homeschool groups on everything from child protection policies to statements of faith. Darren and his wife, Sarah, homeschool as a team and have graduated 3 out of their 4 children. He enjoys board games, teaching Sunday school, and speaking at homeschool conferences around the country. Fabulous. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring him to the stage. Hi, Darren. Yeah.
Hello, Gabrielle.
How are you? I know you're not. You're a little under the weather now.
It is what it is. Yep.
All right. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle. So yes, I thought it was great having an introduction to homeschooling, and especially talking about all of the different kinds of homeschooling that are out there. And so this next section is going to be talking about homeschool co-ops and specifically how you as a homeschool family can choose a co-op that works for you. Or also, I know a lot of people who are in contact with Gabrielle are the entrepreneur type, like we just heard from an entrepreneur. And so maybe you're thinking of starting up some homeschool co-op to help homeschoolers. As far as a definition, a homeschool co-op is really just a way to homeschool in a group setting where it's not just one parent teaching their own kids. There's no state law that defines homeschool co-op, even though they have been around for decades. I was homeschooled my last couple of years in 1989 to 1991, and I was in a homeschool co-op both of those years. So this is not a new thing. However, there are new versions that I've been seeing in the last 15 years or so. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But also, as Gabrielle mentioned, my wife and I have homeschooled our children, and at various times through the years, they have also been involved in homeschool co-ops of different kinds. So if you have a co-op that is homeschooling in a group setting, how do you tell kind of what the differences are? Well, here are some of the things you might look at. First of all, what is the purpose for the group, or maybe what's the focus for the group? So when I was being homeschooled, our homeschool co-op had classes, and some of those classes were academic. For example, my first year, there were 4 of us high school kids who were all about the same age, and we were doing Algebra 2. And so that was one of the classes we got together with one of the grandparents of the kids who was really good at math, and he helped us understand it better. And then we had another part of the co-op that was learning how to use word processors and computers and spreadsheets, which back in 1990, that was pretty cutting edge stuff for a homeschool co-op. We also, in my senior year, we wrote and staged and put together and then put on a play. So we did a drama production the entire spring semester. That was what a lot of the kids were working on for 1 hour of the 3 hours that we would get together. There are some co-ops that focus specifically on enrichment activities. They don't really have classes. They might do more like a cooking get-together or sewing. They might do field trips. A lot of parents I have found don't necessarily feel adequate to plan out field trips for their kids. Now, I'm one who enjoys that. So I've never joined a co-op just to get field trips, but I know a lot of parents who have, because then you just kind of show up with your child and you go on the field trip, and you don't have to do that planning and setting up and contacting the place beforehand. Some other homeschool co-ops really focus on advanced classes. So I know some that will have calculus classes or biology with a lab component to it, because a lot of states now, the public schools are requiring, in order for you to graduate, you have to have the lab with your science. And so these homeschool co-ops are saying, well, we're not here so much to do the field trips and the park days and the get together. We are here to provide the academic classes that you as a parent might not feel as confident to teach. So that's one way of distinguishing homeschool co-ops. Another way of distinguishing them is how many days and hours do they operate? So it used to be that homeschool co-op generally meant 1 day a week, possibly 2. The one that I was in my first year, all of those 7 families were brand new to homeschooling. This was a new thing they were trying out, and so they decided 2 afternoons a week, Monday and Wednesday, all 7 families would get together and they'd do these classes and enrichment activities. And after 1 year, we figured out that actually it's kind of hard to get together 2 days a week and keep up with your homeschooling on the other days. And so we just did it every Wednesday afternoon. It became a once a week thing. And that is still very common. When someone says, oh, I go to a homeschool co-op, it's probably going to be a 1 day a week. However, that is not always the case nowadays. I have this fall been going to a lot of homeschool co-ops in the Northern Virginia area, which has been a lot of fun. And some of them, the co-op itself operates perhaps 3 days a week, but the students can take their classes there a la carte. So one student might be there every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday taking 1 class or 2 classes or maybe even 3. Or they might just be showing up every Wednesday from 10 to noon to do a robotics class. The co-op has rented out the church for those times, and then it provides a menu basically for the homeschoolers to pick. Another kind of co-op that really developed much more since 2020 is a lot of private schools either shut down or really had to alter how they were doing things during the COVID pandemic. And so in order for these schools to keep operating, they kind of had to recast how they were doing things. And a fair amount of them decided to go instead with what they were calling a homeschool co-op route, and what I would call more a private school trying to operate under the homeschool law route. And this works great in some states, and it works terribly in some other states. And if you are interested in joining a co-op that's operating 5 days a week, I'd encourage you to call HSLDA and see how that operates in your state. Again, for some states that might be perfectly legal, and for some others, not so much. Another way that you might look at co-ops and kind of how they're different and such, who the instructors are. So when I was being homeschooled, the instructors were almost all parents, except there was a grandparent in there as well. And one of the homeschool dads taught at a local Christian Bible school for college students. And so one of those students taught us a co-op class, but it was all volunteer. Nobody got paid for it. That has really changed in the last 15 years or so. It is much more common now, even for co-ops that are only operating 1 or 2 days a week, for the instructors to be non-parents and also to be paid. So those are some things, if you are a parent looking at homeschool co-ops thinking, well, what's out there? Those are some things you might want to explore. Are you, as the parent, interested in teaching a class? then you don't necessarily want a co-op where they hire all their teachers, unless you're going to go through the hiring application process. But if you have a background in teaching, for example, I know right now a lot of public school teachers have withdrawn to start homeschooling their own kids. Well, maybe joining a co-op where they hire their teachers is exactly what you want if you want to teach that class. So the first thing to do is, whether you are thinking of joining a co-op, or, and now I'll bring back in talking to the entrepreneurs among you, if you're thinking of starting one, figure out what your purpose is. Some co-ops are designed basically for kindergarten through fourth grade. They want young kids who are starting out. They want sometimes kind of a Montessori-like approach, a hands-on exploration. I know some co-ops, their entire reason for being is to get the kids outside, especially at young ages. And so most of their classes are held outside, not in a classroom. So figure out what your purpose is. If you're going to be starting this group, let's say that you want to focus on providing high-level math, science, and writing classes for homeschool high schoolers. Well, one thing you're going to need to do, of course, is make sure that you're in an area where that target market is big enough, or else you might just get 3 students, and that's not really enough to support what you're looking for, perhaps. If you're thinking of joining a group, make sure you understand what the purpose of that group is. There are some homeschool co-ops that exist to help families who are teaching kids with special needs. And there are other homeschool co-ops who put right on their website, we aren't set up to handle children who have special needs. And so if your child has a diagnosed learning disability or is somewhere on the autism spectrum, here are some other co-ops that might be more helpful to you. So make sure, parents, if you're looking to join a co-op, what the purpose of that co-op is. Now, again, if you're starting a co-op yourself, some of the things to think about are some of the policies that you want to have in place for your co-op. And parents, if you're thinking of joining a co-op, here are some of the things that you might ask them about to find out more about how does this group operate? What kind of homeschool is it? So, first of all, most co-ops that I have talked to have some sort of membership policy. There are some very loose, really maybe not even homeschool co-ops because they aren't cooperatively teaching anything, that meet together at the local parks every second Friday. And just anybody who wants to show up and have your kids play together, that's great. That one you probably don't need a membership policy. But if you are putting on a co-op where you're meeting every Monday afternoon and there are 4 slots for classes during that afternoon, you need to have some sort of membership process where you know who is coming and what kind of skills do they have and how many kids do they have and will they be able to make it there every Monday afternoon. There are groups that have 3-page applications. They want a reference from your pastor. And if you don't go to church and don't have a pastor to give you a reference, don't even bother trying to join that group. There are others who want you to describe in a paragraph or 2 your homeschool philosophy. If you're new to homeschooling, you might not yet know what that homeschool philosophy is. That might be a good chance to dialogue with the group and figure out what they're looking for. Are they a group that focuses mostly on unschooling, as we heard about earlier? Or are we going to go with much more a teacher-directed, here are the assignments and such? So, a membership policy. And that, of course, will also explain how the group can make you leave. Because, unfortunately, I talk with co-ops on a regular basis where there's been some communication breakdown or maybe some conduct issues. And so that's part of a membership policy, is how to separate ways. Not fun to think about, but if you're starting the co-op, you had absolutely best think about that. Also, you want to think about financial policies. Co-ops, by and large, are not free. The one that I was in that first year, it was free. There was no money changing hands. We were meeting at the church where all 7 families went, and so they didn't have to rent the church. But that is extremely unusual nowadays. Even the small co-op that I went to last week down in Tennessee, they've got something like, I think, 18 families or 15 families, and they have to pay a rental fee to rent out a gym. And so these, if you're going to have money, well, then you're going to need to have some financial policies. You might want to set up a bank account that might be in the group's name or somebody else's name. And if you want more information about that, you are welcome to call and talk with me about this. The last policy that I'll talk with is if you are setting up the co-op or if you are thinking of joining a co-op, child protection policies. Some states require background checks for paid staff of homeschool groups. Some states are going to require that you do certain training of your volunteers if they're working with kids who are not their own. And then just basic concepts of safety, like always having 2 adults when kids are there. Co-ops have faced some problems in the last few years. Most of these problems come about when they're operating 4 or 5 days a week and the parents aren't there, and their local city or town looks at them and says, you look a whole lot more like a school than a bunch of homeschoolers just getting together. So if that is the type of co-op that you are thinking of joining or thinking of starting, please call HSLDA and talk with me, and I may be able to help you figure out how to avoid some of these difficulties. And I will end by saying this. I was homeschooled for 2 years. Many of my best memories of homeschooling were from the homeschool co-op that our family was involved in. I got to help put together a yearbook. I found out that I liked getting up in front of people and speaking because that was one of the classes in our co-op. I found out that I was not very good at remembering people's names when after 3 weeks in the co-op, I still couldn't remember all the kids' names, and I still have that problem to this day. But a lot of the good memories that I have for homeschooling, they were a homeschool co-op. And so I'd encourage you, whether you're new to it or have done it for a while, whether you're thinking of joining a co-op for your own kids, or maybe starting up a co-op to help others. This is good. I think homeschooling works best when it's done with a group of some sort. And that might be lots and it might be a little. So, Gabrielle, I'll turn it back over to you now. That's what a homeschool co-op is.
Awesome, Darren. Thank you so much. Let me give you your round of applause. Awesome. Thank you so much for that information. All righty. All right. I just want to, before I move on to the next one, I just wanted to highlight a very important resource. So, as I mentioned earlier, Darren is from the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. So that website is www.hslda.org. That is a great resource for you guys to learn about homeschooling, specifically the laws in your state or country if you're international. But this is a great resource for you guys. Any legal issues that come up, or I think there's a list of co-ops that are there as well. So very resourceful, hslda.org. Just wanted to give them a quick plug. Oh, /groups. Okay, so Darren just gave me another resource. So hslda/groups. So that is where you can see the list of co-ops. Let me just put that up real quick. Let me just get this banner up here. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to put this banner up, and there you go, hslda/group. So there's a list of co-ops there. So whatever your state is, I think it's just the US, I'm assuming, Darren. Wherever you are, there's a list there, hslda/groups. Make sure you check it out. Yes, just the US. So just the United States, there's a list of groups that are there on the website. So make sure you check it out. So if you happen to be looking for any, that is one resource that you can check out. All right, beautiful. All right, so moving right along, we're going to go on to our third question of the day, which is, what are some teaching strategies I can use? So we talked about co-ops before, so now we're kind of going back to it in terms of if you are doing the homeschooling yourself. We're going to talk about what are some strategies that you can use in teaching those subjects. So we're going to get into that. Excuse me. So the person that's going to present that one, her name is Jan Sixt. And let me tell you about her. So, excuse me. Have you tried to explain an assignment to your child only to find that your explanation wasn't understood? Did you lose your child's attention? Did both of you just walk away frustrated? Were your child's needs still not met? Here comes our speaker, Jan Sixt. So she has written 2 books. Teach Your Child to Learn, A Parent's Guide, Simple and Tested Techniques That Work. That's one. And the other one is Teach Your Preschooler to Learn, A Parent's Guide, Preparing Your Toddler for School. That's the second one. So on her YouTube channel, we'll have all this information at the end, but on her YouTube channel, she has created resources that help both students and parents. This includes over 1,200 targeted educational videos for ages preschool through the 12th grade in a variety of academic subjects. Parents learn how to teach basic foundational concepts calmly and smoothly while helping with schoolwork. Her philosophy: homeschoolers learn best with a well-organized curriculum that pairs strategy with efficiency. Final point, Jan has been a teacher and private tutor for over 45 years. That is a long time. All right, without further ado, I'm going to bring Jan to the stage. Hi, Jan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, take it away.
I'd be glad to. And every single year, that experience gets a little longer and longer, but I've enjoyed every bit of it. I did classroom teaching in 4th and 5th grade when I did my teaching in school, but that didn't last very long as my husband and I moved around the country quite a bit. So I was always trying to break into a school system after several weeks, months, sometimes did substitute teaching a lot. And then I decided to throw an ad at the paper and tutor. That was the niche. From then, I never went back into the school setting. I've been a private tutor for all these years. So I have developed certain techniques that I have used with many students of all ages, preschool through 12th grade. Sometimes I've even tutored some college classes that were in my purview. So this is the fix for you're getting confused and not being able to explain something to your child, or the child is, no, I don't want to hear this. And the child might say, well, everybody gets this except me. You're dealing with a lot of emotion with some children. So the fix actually is, in my opinion, simplifying fundamental building blocks of learning. This is what gives real lifelong learning, because really, as a parent and a tutor, I would think that what we really want for our children is that they have a capacity to learn for their lifetime, not just to get past the assignment of the day. Also, if you arrange the content of these basic skills, you transition them into other subjects. For example, my wall is kind of busy looking. I did this on purpose, so you would see some manipulatives or illustrations that you might do with your children, even as an art assignment. So you're marrying the math in this case with art. if you could notice that the basic place values for math, I have illustrated as little houses where 3 columns fit into one house. That can go in both directions, into your decimal numbers and into your higher numbers. It's a pretty simplistic way to show the place value, but it translates itself into metrics, because the metric actually follows the place value of the ones column, tens, hundreds, thousands, and so forth. And then building on this, remember, we're arranging our content so the basic building blocks can grow and step into more complicated concepts. The top one, the top there, is where I've shown the base 10. Each column is a power of 10. So we have the ones column as 10 to the 0 power, and as we go along, it's 10 to the first, 10 to the second, 10 to the third power. In the other direction, we're taking on a high school concept of the power of 10 to the negative, -1, -2, -3, and those are your decimal columns. So, not to get too far in the weeds on this, I started out with a basic structure of the ones column, the tens column, the hundreds, but that is usable now in science when we convert to the metric system. It transfers into some upper math concepts, high school level, middle school and high school level concepts, but it all started out with a simple house that showed the ones column, the tens column, and the hundreds column. So we're simplifying our fundamental building blocks, and these are in all subjects, arranging the content so the basic skills can transition and support more difficult subject material. Then here's another key that I've learned when I link the complementary skills. So you might have a reading comprehension, so that's in the reading column, in the reading subject area, but we have reading comprehension in story problems in math. And many children can do the calculation of addition and subtraction and so forth, but they do not recognize that they need that operation when they get into the story problems. So I've been able to link 3 disciplines by teaching story problems, and that would be the grammar from English with punctuation marks. Those designate what numbers are grouped together within the problem, and also vocabulary. So a word, maybe your problem doesn't say add these numbers. Boy, that would be easy. But if it says that in all or all together or how in total, those words are not particularly math words, but they do suggest the operation of addition. It's like that with subtraction, multiplication, and division. So let me go through, and I hope you have just a piece of paper that you can jot some notes, because I'm going to tell you what I have found to be what I call the pivotal skills. These are skills in each subject that can pivot into other subject discipline areas. For spelling, I teach phonics, so that would be the pivotal skill that you would be teaching. If you taught phonics, you are actually going to be able to use that in spelling, but you're also going to be able to use it for reading comprehension, because the phonics can help their child pronounce the words. For grammar, I teach parts of speech. These are building blocks. I liken them to like the Lego bricks that kids like to use. You have 4-holers and 6-holers and 2-holers and wheels and all kinds of things. And in the grammar, the parts of speech act like those building blocks where you can put those 4-holers and 2-holers together and make a bridge, And you could use those same parts to do a building or your same parts to do an airplane. So we're going to take the 9 parts of speech, and some textbooks only think of 8, but at any rate, the 9 parts of speech can be rearranged in a number of ways, and that makes our sentence structures. So that incorporates the reading and the writing. Pivotal skill for writing, after we get those parts of speech under control, those are the ones that build our sentence structures. There are lots of different kinds of sentence structures, but I teach 3 basic ones because those are the most usable and the most versatile. Simple, compound, and complex sentence structure really does the job in most cases and gives your child the ability to express what your child is thinking. Pivotal skill for reading, you have to have a purpose for reading. If it's a story, let me backtrack for just a minute. I wanted to show you with the spelling. I've put together what I call a spelling organizer that uses these parts, these phonics. For all of this also is available on that YouTube channel that I have here, Jan Sixt, Tutor 1. If you go and access those 1,200 plus videos, I have demonstrated how to use the charts that I'm about to show you and some of the philosophies and teaching techniques to a greater extent. I only have about 10 or 15 minutes with you this afternoon, but those videos are grouped in playlists. If you watch the playlists from the beginning to the end, you would actually have the technique presented to you. And the videos are about 3 to 5 minutes long. So you're not going like, oh my gosh, I got the wrong one and I just sat here for 20 minutes. No, it's very quick. I've also labeled all of them with what the content of those short videos are. So you could match them with perhaps the subject material and the whatever you're teaching. If it's simple sentence structure, you could watch just those simple sentence videos. You could watch them and build up your teaching technique, or you can sit with your young child and watch them together and see how your child is reacting to the information in there. Or if the child is able to be on their own, the child could just watch the videos themselves and then do the workbook page. Okay, back to my pivotal skills. So the reading, you need to have a purpose for reading. If it's story driven, I use a story plot line. This has really been invaluable for me. It's right directly to the point where we're getting the actual. I'm backwards here. The exposition. We have rising and falling action in the story, and all of this is explained also better in those videos. But if you even just put this chart in front of your child, this is what they're looking for when they're reading, to do those book reports and answer the kinds of questions that are in reading comprehension. Even if you personally are not giving them tests and quizzes in your homeschooling setting, when they get into perhaps ACT or SAT review classes, or that's also on those videos that are on YouTube. I've made prep work for those college entrance tests. They have sections where there's reading comprehension. This helps a lot if it's story driven. If the reading purpose is more into science or social studies, this is where I teach note taking. And one of the easiest ways I can show you for note taking, for new vocabulary in stories or in specific vocabulary that would be in science or social studies, I do what I call flashcards and baby flashcards. In this case, a flashcard is made from a vocabulary word. Perhaps we have bird, and perhaps we have reptile. And in this case, we'll be into a science, maybe a science unit. What's the difference between a bird and a reptile? All right, so the textbook or the online textbook that you're using might have very specific things. The reptile is, and it'll explain it in sentence structure, but your child will be picking out the important facts from it and putting it on the back of the reptile card. And the same way with the bird. This is the learning process when the child is understanding what these vocabulary words are. Then I ask the child to make a small or a baby flashcard. So here's the flashcard itself, front and back, and the baby flashcard is made when the child thinks that they know it well enough. They're going to put the flashcards flat on your table with the information side up, and then try to match the baby flashcard. This should be done on a flat surface with either the one that represents this word. This is again explained in much more detail on the videos on YouTube. But when you can visualize sometimes 20 or 25 different vocabulary words, it could get pretty confusing. And this takes the worry out of learning vocabulary. Okay. So our reading is, do we need a purpose for it? Am I over time, Gabrielle? I'm going to sit.
No, you're good.
Okay, I'm good. Oh, good. I saw you pop in there and I was wondering. Okay, so the science and the social studies, biology, a health class, something that's facts oriented. I ask the children to take notes. This is a skill. It's a lifelong learned skill that can just be used for many, many different areas of life. And having note-taking from your textbook puts the information in the child's way of understanding it. And that can then be used for your writing exercises. Again, I'm always doubling and trying to understand and use techniques that can be universally used, not just for that one specific discipline. In math, all right, there's lots and lots of categories for math that are important, but I have found that the pivotal skills in math wrap around the operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, with the caveat being if you don't know the addition facts or the subtraction facts too well, you could kind of bump along with fingers and marks on a paper or something. But not knowing the multiplication tables really hinders a child. They cannot easily migrate to harder subjects in math, harder concepts, if they don't quickly retain that. So I spend a lot of time on the multiplication tables. Doing so, you might find charts like this, where you have numbers across the top and down the side, and as you go across and down, you find the right answer to it. This chart, I find, scares most children. Oh my gosh, I'll never know all those. I can't know all those. I've cut it down to this chart. This one overwhelms a child. This one does not. If you're in the process of teaching your child multiplication, there's some really, really good ways to do it on these videos. I actually mostly use a deck of cards, and the kids think we're having some good fun. Okay, so operations, those are a pivotal skill. And this one, place value, that's why I did all my place value charts there. That's really, really helpful for learning a lot of different concepts of math. And when you get up into the high school level where you're working with algebra and polynomials, it again goes right back to that place value. Okay. And that would be, the place value would be those townhouses that I was talking about before. Okay, now the subject material is important, of course, but as a homeschooling parent, I am just so anxious to have you understand that you also really need to teach organizational and study skills. This is really going to help your child the most with, it's got far-reaching complications. Things like budgeting time. So if your child doesn't know time yet, if you're really catching a young child, I suggest that you teach the analog clock with the digital. This would be the digital one. The analog would be with the hands. If those are taught together with your child at the same time, your child will be able to read the digital or the analog clock. Very important. But knowing and understanding the time is going to be able to get your child to be able to budget his or her time, which is a lifelong skill. So if they have an assignment that perhaps they have to do, maybe 20 problems in math, you've assigned that and that's what their assignment is. I would ask my tutoring students, when I work with children, I say to them, how long do you think that's going to take you to do that? And they might say, 45 minutes. And then I'll say, all right, put that down in the estimate column. Now let's pay attention to when you start it, and see if it really takes you 45 minutes. So, boom, they might finish it off and see that it's only taken them 20. Now, that was really overestimated. So the next time they get another assignment that's about 20 math problems of similar type, they might go for maybe a 20 or a 15-minute, always challenging themselves to be accurate with speed. The accuracy is the most important part, but the efficient amount of working with time is a skill that can be used all the way through school and the adult life. You're not only going to be budgeting the time for assignments, you're going to want them to understand that if you have to leave somewhere for an appointment, let's say a doctor's appointment, they can't start 10 minutes before to take showers and get ready. They're going to have to budget something else. Or if you say, dinner's in 15 minutes, your child might say, hey, I can knock off my spelling in that amount of time. So there's always this thinking process of estimating, budgeting, efficiency with accuracy. I will close. I think I'm just about out of time. I'll close by telling you that the two books that Gabrielle mentioned at the beginning was for the preschooler, and this one are my tutoring techniques. They're both available on Amazon under Jan Sixt. You can find them there. They're short books because I know that you're busy, and I get right to the point. And they also explain what I've just gone through in breakneck speed. If you are a reader and you like to have it with a page that turns. Other than that, I think that the best thing that I can offer you right now are those over 1,200 videos that are on YouTube channel. when you go to the channel, hit playlists, and you'll see all of the different things that are available, and the videos are ordered in that case. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm going to not be here for question and answer. I have to start working. My students will start pretty soon, but I'm so glad I had a chance to talk to you today.
Thank you, Jan, so much. Thank you for giving, what little time you can. Appreciate it. All right, let me give you your round of awesome. All right, thank you, Jan.
You bet. Go
yeah,
parents, you can do this.
yes, you can do this. Awesome.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Jan, thank you so much for that. So much information, you guys, right? If you can put them in a co-op if you want to to outsource the homeschooling, so to speak. If you choose to do it yourself, there's all those different materials that you can make yourself or purchase outside. So there's a lot of different ways that you could do it. All right, so moving right along, we're going to go to our fourth question of the day, which is actually a two-parter. It is, what is the paperwork involved and how does standardized testing work? So we said a lot, right, about how to do it, but now we're going to get into making that first step, getting your foot in the door, starting the whole shebang, right? And we're going to talk about that right now. So the panelist who's going to answer that for me, her name is Tamara Somerville. Just looking for her banner. There's her banner. All right, so let me just tell you about her. So Tamara is a working homeschooling mom. She co-founded the Facebook group Westchester Homeschoolers to connect homeschooling moms like herself to other homeschooling moms in Westchester County to foster relationships, increase socialization among their children, and navigate the daunting paperwork for homeschooling in New York State. She also co-authored the book African American Families: Why We Homeschool, which is now available on Amazon, which we'll talk about later on. And full-time, she works with Classical Conversations, establishing weekly homeschool communities to equip families to successfully homeschool through high school. Fabulous. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring Tamara to the stage. Hey, how you doing?
Hello there.
Hello. All right, I'm going to give you the floor, so take it away.
Thank you. So this is what is before you get into the day-to-day of the curriculum and where do I go and who do I talk to, there is typically the forms to complete to send to your local school district to say, hey, our family is going to be homeschooling. And typically you're gonna if you're in a state that does require reporting, you're going to get some paperwork, which seems like, oh my gosh, this is a whole lot of information. And what do I do? And so I want to help you out on that front, let you know that number one, it's just paper. That's all. There's a couple of pieces of paper. And in some states, there is nothing to fill out. Put in the chat if you are in a state outside of New York. Or if you're outside the US. So put that in the chat if you're in a state outside of New York or if you're outside of the US. Put that in the chat so I can see where people are coming in from. New York is one of the states that seems HSLDA on their website. New York is red. It's like warning. But it is literally just paperwork that is to be completed. And you may live in a no or low regulation state like New Jersey, Connecticut. Those are low states with low regulations or paperwork or requirements. So I'm going to start with some of the bigger ones like New York, because some of the other states have similar requirements. Usually the requirements are like, the requirements include reporting that you are going to be homeschooling, sending in an instruction plan, like what is the curriculum you're going to be using, what is the who's going to be teaching, that kind of things are usually some form of a document with an instruction plan. There's maybe some quarterly reports and an annual assessment. Like I said, there are some states that have nothing to either send in at all. Typically, if your children are below the age of 6, there's nothing to send in. So it does vary by state. So I do recommend the information I'm going to give you will cover some of the states in the Northeast. So I will not specifically be covering Alabama or Florida or Illinois. Great to see you guys here, though. And so you do want to check in. Darren mentioned this in his presentation. Check out the website for the specific regulations for your state. Some states also do require immunization records. Some states have some teacher qualifications. But in most cases, in every state, it is legal for parents to educate their children. So you do not have to have, there are some options, though, as to what type of homeschooling option you want to choose in your state. So there may be different requirements based on your choices. So you definitely want to check out your state's your state specific requirements. I do want to help you to say, please keep it simple. I have gotten into my very first year. This is my 12th year homeschooling. And in years 1, 2, and 3, I sent these gigantic reports because I wanted to really prove, I realized now I was trying to prove to myself that I was doing a good job and that I had done enough things to really show that my student was being educated properly. But even in a high documentation state like New York, Pennsylvania is another state that requires a number of documents. Even in a state like New York, they only asked for some sort of quarterly report, and they gave no specific guidelines that I have to follow. Well, being educated here in New York myself, I remember about 3rd or 4th grade, my report card that came home had the letters NI for needs improvement, ME for meets expectations, EE for exceeds expectations. Those were not grades. Those were not numbers. And so really it was an arbitrary system of how we were being assessed based on what the teacher decided was going to be there. So I decided one year, out of sheer laziness, just to put on my son's quarterly report a 1, 2, 3, or 4. I gave them a rubric for what that meant, and no one said anything. So it really is, sometimes we get all worked up about what is required. Put in the chat if you have children under the age of 6 that are homeschooling. So if you're homeschooling a pre-K student, a pre-K 3, 4, or 5 student, put that in the chat, because the great news in that in almost every state, you don't have to send in anything. So there's no testing required. There is no paperwork to fill out. So put that in the chat and give yourself a round of applause. There's nothing for you to do. Go ahead and put that in chat. For the letter of intent, or typically you're noticed to homeschool, it is literally sometimes one sentence that says, I'm going to be homeschooling my child, fill in the name of the child or all the names of the children, and put the year for the school year. So 24, 25. So I'll be homeschooling Bob for the 2024-25 school year. That is usually as much of a letter of intent as is required in most states. And like I said, some don't even require any, like in New Jersey. Your instruction plan, this is where you do want to make sure you read your regulations. And whether you're in a high state regulation or a low or low state regulation, please read over the regulations each year, because sometimes they change based on grade. And yes, sure, I believe I'm saying your name right, Cherie. You can pull your child out of school at any point in time. So what I actually started homeschooling myself 2 weeks before school started. I've had people who joined our community, our weekly communities, sometimes the last few weeks of the program in April and May. A lot of people sometimes will pull their kids out of school around the Christmas break and start homeschooling then. I see some older kids, couple 13, 14, and 16-year-olds. Please be mindful that oftentimes the subject matters that you need to report on in your individual instruction plan, those will change for middle school and high school. So be mindful that you're including all of those subjects. In the younger years, they sometimes will ask you to include things like health safety and fire safety, bicycle safety, things that we don't even think about now, that most schools don't even do, because many of our regulations were written back in the 80s. But we're thankful they haven't changed them. We don't want them to change some of them because they may change to something we don't like. But yeah, so the instruction plan is usually going to include either a list of textbooks or your plan of instruction. In many states, they are required to give you a form to complete, but you are not required to complete their form. And so particularly in New York, there is no specific format you need to follow. So that's another plus for you. They're giving you guidelines which tell you what to include, but you're not typically obligated to use their form. HSLDA has plenty of forms on their website. And in your state, if you belong, your state probably has a state homeschool group that can support you with documentation as well. Congratulations, Angela, homeschooling for 2 years now. Let's see how many years have you all been homeschooling? Is this your first year, or have you been doing this for a while? Because some of you may already have been doing this and have already completed some of this. And maybe you're just putting way too much information and getting stressed out like I was in my first few years with having to write your reports if they are required. Districts that do require a quarterly report, it's pretty much like a report card. Again, I mentioned all the things I was writing down, what field trips we took, what lessons we were teaching, what science experiments I did, what history I was teaching. It was a lot, and none of it was required, not a single lick of it. And I was writing this 2 to 3 page report every year. And then I just broke it down to, what does my report card look like? It was one piece of paper that had 4 columns for each year. And so I did that again, because here were the professionals giving me this very simplified information with not a lot of context. I didn't know. No one ever told me what portion of the curriculum that actually got covered in the year. No one said how much was supposed to be covered. If my child got an 80, what does that mean? What can they do because they have an 80 grade? What do they know with that 80? None of that was ever there. And so I was doing a whole lot of stressing, and I want to help you. If you walk away with nothing else, I want to help you to de-stress about this situation. That the professionals are out here with their certifications and their continuing education, and they do not give you that much information as a parent. So let's not stress ourselves trying to give it back to them. We are doing a good job because there's no one that cares more about our child's education than us. So we are doing our level best to get that, to ensure that they are being educated properly, they're being educated thoroughly. And we're going to keep them, because we don't have a clock telling us that we have to stop teaching if it doesn't get done because Mary had a headache. Then okay, there's still tomorrow, there's the weekend. Schoolwork doesn't have to stop. There's no required break that you have to take. One of our previous panelists mentioned that she homeschools year round. So do I, but we take off from Thanksgiving till 3 Kings Day. So we don't do school then, but we do start school in August as well, even though we live in New York, because we wanted to keep our school schedule. In New York, you are required to tell them like what dates they'll get the reports. And because we are required in New York to submit that schedule, I line up my school calendar with my sister's family, because our kids are around the same age. So I wanted to make sure when her kids were on break, my kids were on break, so we can go on vacations together. And so we start in August because they start in August. We finish in May because they finish in May. So it's a lot of the stress and stuff we're putting on ourselves. Like I said, I want you to walk away with it's not that serious, and it's just paper. So there's the quarterly reports. Here's where we get into the big questions about, well, what about assessments? Number one, you are not required to do whatever state exams that the local school district is doing. You are not required to do that. You can, if you like. If you don't want to think about it and you just want to send them to the district and have them take the test, be mindful there may be some forms they'll have you fill out, because now you're in their realm and you're taking their tests using their facilities and their resources. So there may be some things that they may require of you. In New York, you are not required to start doing an official, you are required to do an annual assessment in the beginning of first grade, but a state standardized test, not a state test, a standardized test beginning in fourth grade. You do it every other year up until the 8th grade, and then every year 9th through 12th grade. But even that, and like I said, I use New York as a benchmark because we are one of the stricter, I can't say stricter, but higher requirements than other states. And we have a list of, I think there are over at least more than a dozen tests that you can choose. So the parent, you're choosing the test your child takes. I'll tell you a funny story. My daughter, our first year that I did decide to test her, not that it wasn't required this year, but our family wanted to do it. Really, my husband wanted to do it. And she was in 3rd grade, and we got together a number of other homeschool parents. We had proctors for different grade levels, and the other kids finished the test, and she's like, oh, I guess it's lunchtime. And so she handed in her report. She didn't finish near half of that test, but she thought, oh, well, it must be time to go because everybody else is going. I never submitted that test because she never finished it, but I realized it was best for me to test her at home. And so we did a paper and pencil test each year. We used a resource called the PASS exam. It is a test created by homeschoolers, but I wanted a paper and pencil test. I didn't want them to have to take the test on the computer. As my daughter got older, we switched to, this was after 8th grade, once she had learned how to type, we switched to a computerized test. So we use the California Achievement Test. My son now uses that too. That one is online. I still do an untimed test because I found out what works best for my children. And I realized the clock just stressed them out, so I didn't time them. But this is something that you can do. You can choose the assessment you do. You can choose whether it's paper and pencil. You can choose whether it's online. You can choose whether it's timed. You can choose whether you do it at home. You do it in your local school district. Some tests do require a proctor who is a college graduate to oversee it. So like BJU's Stanford 10, BJU is Bob Jones University. You can order the Stanford 10 exam through them. It does need to be a proctored exam, proctored by a person with a college degree. So I have a college degree, but I didn't want to use their test because their test is also timed. So just take a look at what options are available, what will best fit your child. And remember that it is a snapshot of what your child has been exposed to. And remember, and some children just don't do well with standardized tests. So use it as a tool, not as a weapon against you or your child to say how well they are learning, how intelligent they are, or anything to that effect. I mentioned some of the options. There's the Iowa test, the California test. Some of these exams are used by local school districts, but again, many of them have options. You can take it at home and you can do timed or untimed. Some assessment tips I mentioned, consider the setting, whether you want to do a group testing or home. Any proctor requirements, like I said, the BJU test does have a bachelor's degree requirement. Paper or online, like I said, I let my children take a paper test until their typing skills and computer usage skills were up to par, where they weren't also being tested on how to use a computer in order to take their test. Whether you want a timed or untimed option, and whether you can take, there are many, like I said, there are many states that don't require, there are a few states that don't require these formal assessments until a certain grade level, but you may choose to have your child take them. Like I said, in 2nd grade, we weren't required in New York to do it, but I did it because my husband requested it. So just consider that as you're taking taking these assessments or utilizing these assessments. I am looking at the HSLDA website. So I remember some of the states that were mentioned. Alabama and Mississippi are both low regulation states, whereas Indiana, I think I saw Illinois, somebody wrote Chicago. There are there's no notice and very low regulation. I saw Massachusetts, which Massachusetts, New York, and Pennsylvania are the three high regulation states. I know Pennsylvania, I think, requires a portfolio or of some sort. So you definitely want to take a look at the regulations specific to your state and what they actually require. There are a few states that do require immunization records depending on the option that you're choosing for homeschooling. And yes, Cherie, some states do allow you to participate in utilizing the public school resources, particularly when it comes to testing. Not to be very mindful that they may not include sports or art or things like that, but for testing, some school districts will allow you to do it. And yes, you can participate in dual enrollment. As a homeschooler in general, that's a huge boost for homeschooling. Our program, Classical Conversations, has a program where our students can graduate our CC program with up to if they take one set of summer classes, they can graduate with up to their associate's degree and still be doing all their CC work. The difference is they'll be submitting some of that work to the college for college credit. So there's lots of options to get college credit while they're being homeschooled, while they're home with you, and have that leg up, because there's no reason to keep them back. You just, some people ask about grades. You determine if, what grade level your child is in. If the school district doesn't require that. If your child is 6, they have to be in first grade or in kindergarten. That's up to you to decide where they are, because you can graduate them early if you like. I want to say this again as I wrap up. Whether you are in a low regulation or high regulation state, please read your regulations. The better you know them, if ever you are questioned about what you are doing, the best comeback is you knowing the regulation. Twice, I've lived in 3 different school districts. One school district sent me notice one year that I had to provide a standardized test. I literally just copied and pasted the regulation with the link for him and sent it back, said, no, I'm not required to do so. Another school district required that I send in a copy of my student's birth certificate. Again, I sent the link back with the copy of that portion of the regulation, sent it back to them. But the reason I was undaunted by their questions or their requests was because I knew what the regulations said. The second school district, when we got down to it, the real issue was that their system had no way. She didn't need the birth certificate. What she wanted was the year. In New York, you're only required to give them the age of the child, but they had no way of actually entering the age of the child without entering the birth date, and she needed to put the year there. So I gave it to her because it wasn't her fault. She wasn't trying to be malicious or just requiring extra stuff, just that their system was antiquated and she needed a way to record it. And so I gave that to her. But your best defense is knowing your regulations, so that you don't get stressed simply because they asked a question, and you don't get stressed when it's just paperwork. Like I said, in New York, they said when you send your notice to homeschool, they send you a packet that includes a written packet of the entire New York State regulation and some forms to fill out from your school district. So it can be a pretty thick pack of paper. That, again, it's just paper. It's not meant to intimidate. It's meant to inform and to give you a format to use, but not that you're required to use it. So the better you know that, the easier your life will be. You can and go back to the fun of your co-ops, your field trips, your resources, whether you're unschooling, doing classical education like we are, Montessori. Go back to the fun of homeschooling and enjoying time with your child, and let the paperwork fall by the side, because you've got a system for doing it. I would suggest like knowing the dates and just having that on repeat, getting it set up so that you have time to schedule it. Give yourself time as well if you're doing your quarterly reports. Give yourself time before the time you say your quarter ends and the time you're actually going to submit the paperwork. Don't make it the same day. All right, that concludes this presentation. Again, have fun. It is a beautiful time to homeschool. Don't let the paperwork get in your head. All right, Gabrielle.
Beautiful. Wait, while I have you here, as you were talking about the map, I pulled it up here. So let me just pull it up on the screen here for people to see. But I'm gonna have to do it here. Right. Yep. So you were talking about so this is the United States, and you were talking about the different areas. So as you see here, this is the key here at the bottom. So the states in red, it's, I think, Pennsylvania, New York,
and Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Oh, so and Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. So, yeah. So this little corner here is bright red. That was hilarious when I saw that. So that is the highest of regulations. And then the dark blue is moderate regulation. And then the light blue is low regulation. And then the green is no notice, low regulation. So the green states are the most lax of the entire country, which is hilarious. And then, and then there's varying degrees of strictness when it comes to regulations and paperwork. So
yes, and regulations. I want to say it again. Regulations. It just means paperwork. It's not you don't need to move out of New York because they have more regulations than New Jersey. You can stay right here. I've been homeschooled in New York for now 12 years. It's literally just paperwork. And I know you said, Gabrielle, there are some people who, if you're international, Classical Conversations does have communities in 57 countries. So if you go on our website, classicalconversations.com, you may be able to find some homeschool support that way if you are outside of the U.S., where you won't have a state regulation or maybe not have a country homeschool group to help you out. If you are outside the U.S., we do support international communities as well.
Awesome. And as we're on international communities, it's another thing I pulled up. I don't think I could pull. I thought I had it. Oh, I'm gonna reshare it. But on the same, I'm just gonna pull it up. It's not letting me do it. All right, but on the same same website, there's a drop down box for international. Oh, there it is. So I can pull it up. All right, I'm gonna share the screen again just so you guys can see. So for those of you that are outside of the United States, this is the HSLDA website where it breaks down homeschooling in other countries. So it looks like the dark blue is where homeschooling is allowed. I'm assuming that's what the color coordination means. So there's a drop-down list of countries. So you find which country you're in, and then you will see the regulations when it comes to that. So this is another resource for those of you outside of the United States, hslda.org/legal/international. I just wanted to point that out. All right, Tamara, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something else?
No, I said always a pleasure.
All right, awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. Give you your sound effect. All right, beautiful. All right, thank you. All right, so moving right along. So the next question is, how do you choose a curriculum? So we talked about the types of homeschooling that you can do. We talked about doing it yourself. We talked about the paperwork involved. Now we are going to talk about, should you decide to do it yourself, right? How do you do it, right? How do you organize it? And we are going to get into that, and I will be the one to discuss that. So let me tell you about myself before I pull up my PowerPoint slides. All right, so how do you choose a curriculum? I'm the one that's going to answer that question. So my name is Gabrielle Critchlow. So I am a passionate advocate for equal access to education. So during my time in graduate school, I witnessed the academic challenges faced by working class families, particularly those who are people of color. I recognize that the limited tutoring hours provided by existing companies were insufficient to meet the needs of those families. Additionally, I noticed that many children in these households struggled with undiagnosed learning disabilities and they lacked basic literacy skills. Motivated by my desire to make a difference, I came up with a brilliant idea. I decided to establish my own company. Drawing from my experiences working at various tutoring companies, I gained valuable insights into effective tutoring methods and discovered my passion for helping students succeed. I also inspired other tutors to join me in this mission. So in 2013, I turned my vision into reality and founded A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. Since then, I have provided high quality tutoring services to students in need. Through my company, I continue to empower and support students, ensuring they receive the educational opportunities they deserve. All right, so that's enough about me. All right, so let me get my PowerPoint slides. So I'm going to share my, let me see if I can get it. Where are you? Scroll tab, wait, share my entire screen. Hold on, okay. Give me 1 second as I try to pull this up. Ah, there you are. All right. Okay, slideshow from the beginning. Okay. All right. So, how do you choose a curriculum? Right. So, what do parents need to know about selecting the right curriculum for their homeschool? So, let's get into that. So, first, we're going to start off with a recap. So, first, we started off with what is homeschooling, right? We got into what that is. Then, it is what is a homeschool co op? That was the next question. Then, we talked about what are some teaching strategies I can use. Then, we talked about what is the paperwork involved and how does standardized testing work. So, now we're going to talk about so how do you choose a curriculum? So, that is my task for today. So, 7 days before your homeschool starts, right? So you have all of your school supplies, you have your desk, you have your chair, you have your cute storage. Well, you need your children, of course. You filed your letter of intent or your affidavit. You communicated with the district already, but unfortunately, you are completely shattered. While you have all of the materials for homeschooling, you don't know what you're going to teach. You need a curriculum. So, what is that? What is a curriculum? So, think of the curriculum as a roadmap. It assists you, who is the teacher in this case, in planning what your child is going to learn. So, it includes things like the materials, your methods, the goals, assessments, all these things to make teaching effective. And it serves as a guideline to how you're going to structure your how you're going to structure your environment, the way that you teach. So that curriculum is sort of like a it's like a the way that you structure your classes, that's how you're building your homeschool around it. So it's like a sort of like a guide or a window as to how you're going to set up your homeschool. And it's also like a collection of learning experiences that you can customize to your family's needs. So you are creating a lesson plan for your child that is best for your child's growth and success. And you decide how you want to do it. You decide how many hours in a day, you decide which classes, you decide what teaching methods, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and you'll do it in a way that benefits your child the most. All right, so of course, with all homeschooling, you need subjects, right? So, what are those subjects? So, you need your arts, right? Drawing, graphic design. This is the creative aspect of homeschooling. You need your language arts, which includes reading and writing, of course. You need math. You need that, oh, evil math. But you need that math, you guys. You can't avoid it. You need math. Physical development, that could be any kind of exercise classes or gym, but you need your physical development. You need your science, that's biology, chemistry. You definitely need your sciences. Social sciences, right? Social studies, right? Geography, so you'll need that. Technology. Technology is helpful. The things like computers. You maybe want your child to develop an app, for example. So coding is very huge. So that might be something you may want to add to your homeschooling. So social emotional development, this is really for pre-K. So that could be things like play dates, role playing, storytelling, pretend play. It could be a time where you talk about feelings, community service. So things like that where you're developing emotionally and understanding the different types of feelings that you may have, social interaction. So this is a very critical period for that, and you may want to have that for your homeschooling. So health and safety. So this starts from kindergarten up. So that could be things like uh, first aid training, good hygiene practices. There's actually apparently, if you go to some firehouses, they offer some safety classes as well. So that might be something you may want to look into for your homeschool. All right, so the philosophy of homeschooling. So these are some things you may want to think about in terms of how you want to set up your homeschooling. So you may want to, well, this is a question you should ask yourself. Excuse me. So what type of homeschool do you have right now, or do you think you would like to have? Right. So that's something. So when putting together your homeschooling, that's a question you want to answer for yourself and your family. So in what ways do you or would you present content? So how would you teach those subjects that we talked about? Would you do it yourself? Would you outsource it? How would you conduct the homeschooling? So that's another thing that you would want to think about. And lastly, what guidelines or methods should you adopt to fit your home? So what type of methods would be beneficial for your child? What methods would be beneficial for the way you set up your home, for example? Or if you're outsourcing, excuse me, should you choose to outsource the homeschooling, what type of homeschooling environment are you looking for should you choose to outsource it? So whatever your philosophy, the important part is that it's entirely up to you. You decide how you want to do it. Whatever you decide, you want to find something that your child would be engaged in. So whatever materials that you use or the curriculum that you use, you want to make sure that it matches your philosophy. You also want to make sure it matches your goals. You also want to make sure it matches up with your child and it aligns with your child. So you don't want to pick something and your child hates it, or you find that they're not really learning well from it, right? So you want to pick something that will best benefit your child and your family. All right, so here there's different types of homeschooling philosophies that you can consider. So there's things like we talked about the Montessori method, which is it's more like a hands-on learning experience. It's more independent freedom, so there's not really a structure to it. It's more to engage in curiosity and exploration, self-discipline. You may want to consider the Charlotte Mason method, which relies more on books and studying nature. Short focused lessons, outdoor exploration. We talked about unschooling earlier, which is more of like a free flowing way of schooling. So there's different types of ways that you could set up your homeschool. School at home is another one. That's pretty much like the way you set up the way public school is set up. Maybe you know what you want to the way that they do public school, you want that at home. That's up to you, right? So that's another way that you could do that. But these are the different types of ways that you can set up your homeschool. So who's the teacher? So in homeschooling, the teacher is you, right? So you are the teacher. That is very, very important. So you are the teacher. But let's say you don't want to be the teacher, right? What are your other options? Well, still you, right? But with an assisting tool. So what do I mean by that is maybe you want to, there are like curriculums that you can buy, that you can purchase that have everything kind of laid out for you. So you can either do it yourself where you create your own materials, or you can use pre-planned materials or pre-packaged materials. So you can do that as well. You can also hire a tutor, right? So you'll, depending on your state, you are allowed to use tutors for homeschooling. You can use an online academy. So there are online academies that are out there. So if maybe your child is more into computers and you find that interacting with people might be difficult, so it may be helpful to find something virtual. So there are online academies that are out there that everything is just laid out for you. So you could just let them do all that, right? And then we talked about it earlier, but homeschool co-ops is another, excuse me, homeschool co-ops is another resource for you. So you can just kind of drop them off at a co-op, right? And there was a question before about joining multiple co-ops. You are allowed to join multiple co-ops, but you may want to just let them know, right, that you're in multiple co-ops, but you are allowed to do that. So a co-op is another resource for you if you yourself don't want to do the teaching. All right, so if you're looking for curriculums that are religious based or religious centered, here are some options for you. Easy Peasy is a popular one. I see that pop up a lot in Facebook groups. There's also Sunlight, The Good and the Beautiful, BJO Press. So these are some options for you if you're looking for more of a religious influence in the curriculum for your child. So if you are looking for curriculums that are more ethnic based, so maybe you want to find materials that focus on Black culture, that focus on Asian culture, that focus on Latino culture. So what I have here, these are some examples of African American culture. So Kamalia Academy, Liberated Minds Institute. These are some examples of Native American curriculums. So these are the ones that are out there that I managed to find, but there are pre-packaged curriculums that are ethnic based depending on your ethnicity. And so if that's what you want for your child, they are out there, and these are some examples of that. So very limited resources if you are looking for so very limited. My slide is not moving. Just want to check something. I was told my slide was not moving. Just doing some. Sorry, just doing some. Okay. Present slide screen. 1 second. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so we were talking about yes, Asian American homeschool, Asian American homeschooling. There are out there very limited resources. Correct me if I'm wrong. Put it in the chat if you know of any ethnic based curriculums that are Asian American focused, but there's limited resources that are out there. For those of you that are of Hispanic descent, these are a couple of resources that are out there for you as well. So Lemon Has is one, and Novus Possum is another one. So here are some examples for you that you can do. All right, so another thing you may want to think about in terms of your curriculum is, do you want like a physical part of it? Like, would you want a textbook, right? Or do you want something online? So this is one of the things that you want to think about in putting together your curriculum. So do you want something more like hands-on, something that your child can touch, so a series of books, workbooks, things like that? Or do you want to do everything on the computer, right? Do you want something virtual or on hand? So some kids do better with the books and the textbooks. Some kids do better on computers, right? So that's something that you want to factor in when choosing your curriculum. And whatever you decide. Oh, sorry, I almost missed this part. There's some out there that are blended, and that some are printed and virtual at the same time. So that could be another option for you if you're looking for a mixed batch. But either way, this is something that you want to consider when finding the best option for your child. So now, one of the things that comes up a lot is, can you afford it? Right? So that's one of the things that pop up for me a lot is affordability, right? How much does homeschooling cost? Well, there are free materials that you can use. So not everything involves spending money, right? So you can look this stuff up, right? There's all of these websites and worksheets that you can download. There is so much free resources that are out there. So it involves some research, right? So this is where you would have to search for it, right? So you could talk to friends and family in the homeschooling community. Social media is a big one. There's all these different Facebook groups that you can join, but all of this stuff is out there. So for those of you that are worried about having enough money to get the materials, there are free and low cost materials that are out there. I know Khan Academy is one that is free. iExcel is a paid subscription, but they give you some questions that are free. I think Kuda Software is another free one. So I think mathaids.com is another one. E-reading worksheets is another one, right? So there's all these resources that are out there for free if you are concerned about affordability and saving money. But there are resources that are out there. It will take some research on your part, but it is out there. All right, so here's a little more information for you guys. So Mia Academy is an example of those online academies I was telling you about. Acellus Academy is another one. There are academies that are full. There are accredited and non-accredited as well. There's a bunch of different websites here. So all of this stuff is here. Oh, Spectrum's another one. So Spectrum is workbooks. So I personally like the Spectrum workbooks. They don't really explain the concepts. It's really more for practice. So it's really more of a supportive tool, but that might be something you may want to consider. Spectrum, I believe, follows the Common Core curriculum. So that might be something you may want to consider. So all of these resources are out there for you to look into and explore. So which subjects should you teach? So it varies, right? So I know I kind of mentioned it earlier. So just to kind of circle it back in. So depending on your state or country, they actually outline which which subjects that you should teach in your curriculum. So that's something that you should be mindful of. So 32 out of 50 states, there are specific requirements. So when it comes to choosing a curriculum, there are some subjects that pretty much all states and countries have something in common, right? So there's language arts like reading and writing, social studies, science, and math. So those are the common denominator among the states and the countries. So you need to have those foundational skills. So they are considered essential for a well-rounded education. So this is something you may want to incorporate in your own curriculum is when your child starts ninth grade. I think for the most part, we still follow the grades setup. In that when your child starts ninth grade, that might be the time to start talking about college and introducing life after high school, right? So that might be something you may want to incorporate into your curriculum. So we'll talk about that later. Preparation for college, that'll be my next segment. So, should you decide to homeschool until 12th grade, it's important for you to research the graduation requirements of your state or country, which my next presenter will get into more of. But I do want to emphasize that you can homeschool up to 12th grade. So should you decide to go all the way, you can do that, but definitely go into the graduation requirements of wherever you are located. So I wanted to highlight that point. So the core subjects, you have your math, your reading, and your writing, and your social studies. Those are your core subjects. So then there are electives, right? So they're optional. You don't have to, but it might help to make your homeschooling more eclectic and more enriching is you add these additional subjects. So I talked about arts before. So you may want to add music. You may want to add dance, foreign languages, right? You may want to teach things like finance, life skills, how to open a bank account, credit reports, right? So you may want to add these things into your homeschooling curriculum to make it more of a well-rounded education. So you might want to have more electives in your setup. All right, so here are some additional resources for you. Bookshark is another one that I think that's an online, no, those are books, but those are pre-packaged. So those curriculums are laid out. I did mention IXL Learning. I like IXL. That one is a subscription. So that one is, well, it's a financial investment. They do give some free questions, but if you want like unlimited practice, IXL is a good resource. They follow, no, they have a variety of curriculums, actually, not just the Common Core. So IXL is another one. That one I like personally. A to Z Homeschooling is another resource. So those are some additional websites for you to look into and additional resources to help you decide how you want to put your homeschooling together. So you can change your curriculum at any time. So that is a very, very important for you to know. Once you pick one, you do not have to stick to it. So if you pick one and you decide, I don't really like it, or my child's not really getting anything from it, guess what? You can switch, right? You don't have to stick to one. You can hop around, jump around. You can find which one is better for your child, but you can switch them up at any time. All right, so 5 non-negotiables. So something that you want to keep in mind. You want to assess your child's strengths and weaknesses by testing them in reading or math. So we talked about assessments. So you may want to do some additional assessments as well, but definitely see where your child is in terms of the reading and math in terms of their core subjects. So you definitely want to look into that. You want to keep track of your child's progress. So how are they doing? Where are they struggling? You definitely want to keep some sort of documentation of your child's progress. You want to evaluate, you want to take good notes, help you decide what to teach next. So this is something that's very important. So depending on your state, they may require you to keep a portfolio. So the assignments that you give out, the worksheets, presentations, all of that, depending on your state, you may want to keep all those. Well, you should, depending on your state. They require a portfolio. So these are things that you should be keeping track of, documenting, and keeping it all in a portfolio. So you definitely want to have those. So if, depending on your state as well, or your country, if you're curious or required, you may want to give them a standardized test to see how they're doing and how they compare with their age groups across the country. So I know New York requires a standardized test. So that's a state that requires it. But if you're in a lax state like Texas that doesn't really require it, you may want to have them do it anyway as an option, just to see how they're doing personally, but also compared to other kids their own age. So that may be something to factor in. And you want to choose appropriate level standards and set personal goals for your child. So I know we talk a lot about grades, but there are developmental stages. So, but some, depending on your child, they may be more advanced than kids their own age, or they may be farther behind than kids their own age. That's fine, but you definitely want, I will say there are more or less developmental benchmarks that you want to make sure your child is reaching. And this will help you guide how you're doing your homeschool. All right. So good luck, you guys. Sorry, stop sharing. So good luck, you guys, on your homeschooling journey. Just know that it is trial and error. So it's research, it's exploration. There isn't a one size fit all type curriculum. It really does take patience. It takes, I guess practice. I don't know if I want to say practice, but it really is figuring out what's best for your child. So don't expect to get it right away. It may take some time for you to get it right. So just know just have patience with yourself. Don't rush yourself. It does take time. So whatever is best for your child, but also best for your family as well, because homeschooling is a collective effort. So you definitely want to pick something that is best for you, best for your family, and for your child. All right, so that is the end of my segment. Let me give myself a round of applause. All right. And now we are reaching the final question of the day. That question is, how do homeschool children get into college? So we're going to dive more into that. And I see my presenter is here. So let me tell you about her. So her name is Lanissa James. Let me get her name. There you are. Lanissa James. So let me tell you about her. So she is going to wrap it all up for us. So she plays a vital role in the HSLDA. So she's the second panelist from that organization, where she works closely with homeschooling families to guide them through the high school process. She leads a homeschool co-op, a tutorial, and oversight program for K-12, demonstrating a keen understanding of the unique needs of these families. With over a decade of experience as a seasoned tutor in both group class settings and one-on-one coaching, Lanissa is well equipped to support her students. Additionally, she and her husband are actively homeschooling their 7 children, ranging from preschool to college. Awesome. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Lanissa to the stage. Hi, Lanissa, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you? This is
I am
exciting.
good. I'm good. All right, so you're taking it home for us.
Hey,
All
looks like you
right.
guys had a phenomenal presentation today, all day. This is great. I hear my colleague Darren Jones was on as well.
Yeah, he was definitely on. All right, Mister, take it home.
Wonderful. So she said the question is, how do homeschool children get into college? Do they go to college? Absolutely. I love talking about this topic, and I hope you are encouraged. I think that there's so many stereotypes about homeschooling through high school. We all think we're smarter than a fifth grader. But as soon as you say you're going to homeschool your kid through high school, everybody's concerned. Aunties are concerned, grandmas are concerned, right? Your spouse is concerned. People begin to get really concerned. And this is an area that I've totally fallen in love with. And I want to share with you, I want to encourage you just in the short time that I have today. Just like Gabrielle said, I am a homeschool mom of 7. My husband and I, when we first started homeschooling, he thought, is this legal? We went from spending $20,000 in private education, clearly on a college track, but I decided to homeschool. And he was concerned. He was in law enforcement. He said, is this legal? And that's how I connected with HSLDA many, many years ago. It'll be almost 20 years. My oldest daughter is getting ready to turn 27, and our youngest is 9 now. So we have just launched our 4th student to college. Out of those 4 college students, 2 have finished. 1 is a junior and 1 is a freshman this year. We love college. And at home, we're still homeschooling 3. We have 1 that's a junior. So I'm with you. If you're looking college-bound students, I have a high school student. I also have an 8th grader who I'm preparing for college, getting college credit in 8th grade. That's something homeschoolers can do, and it's exciting, as well as having my 3rd grader, which just kind of keeps me all young. So it's all so exciting. I brought a PowerPoint for you. I hope I'm able to share. Let me see if I can share my screen. And I want to just give you some visuals, if that's okay. Let's see if it works. Share my screen. All right. I think I'm sharing my screen. I hope I'm sharing my screen. I hope I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not right now. What? All right. So you click share. So present at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And then share screen.
Let me exit my show. Let's see. I'm trying to share. All right. Entire screen. Yes, I see you. Oh, click share screen on the bottom.
Yes.
Chrome tab. There we go. It's gray. Why is that gray?
Well, is it open? So the
slide.
Yeah, make sure it's open.
It's open.
Okay.
Slide is open. Let's see.
It should be entire screen or tab. Not tab. Window or entire screen.
No, let's try window. Oh, I found one. Let me know if you see my screen now.
Okay, I popped up on my end. There you go.
Do you see the full screen?
Yes, I see the full screen.
All right, I'm just going to share a little bit from the PowerPoint, and then I'm going to come have a chat with everybody, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions, okay? You are going to be able to chart your way, not only college, but career, military. This is the James Party of 9. It's never a dull moment. Check them out. We're sitting here. We have a family-owned beach, and they're just hanging out, chilling, and you see my little one. She's just so cute. But it's just been a journey, and there's my husband. He was just like, come on, like make this make sense. We saved $19,500. He was like, what's going on? Kids look happy. They're sitting around the table. And here's the team. So I have more young adults, college students than I have little kids along these many years. And we are a college-bound family. I believe in higher education. So many sacrifices have been made for us to enjoy higher education. And I really want my kids to be able to enjoy it. So we set up our lives for that to be a big part. And I'm going to give you some hope. My oldest daughter, Lastasia, she's on my far left. She did the dual enrollment, right? The high school diploma and the dual enrollment. The reason I bring this up is that some people who might be listening are really into making sure your kid gets a college experience before college starts. There's dual enrollment available. You can do it online. You can do it live. She did it live at our local community college. And she presented herself to her dean at her university with
Sorry
half of
to interrupt you. Apparently your slides are not progressing. Is it in slow presentation mode? We're still seeing the first one.
Let's see.
Sorry, some technical issues. Sorry, guys. Let's try putting in slideshow.
You don't see it. Wow. Let's try it one more time. You see the first one, yes?
I see, right now I see a picture of a family group. I see your family.
Wow.
Try putting in slideshow. Let's see if that works.
Yeah, I'm in slideshow mode. Do you see another picture? Is it moving? Oh, let me push this. Hang on.
That's so weird.
All right. Is it moving?
No, still seeing the group with your family.
Oh, let me stop sharing.
When you click through, yes. That's what Sandy is saying.
Did you say you see me when I click through or no?
No.
Let's try this one more time.
We're gonna try again. Sorry, you guys. All right, we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah, okay. I hear Angela saying she looked into dual enrollment. That's exciting. Mm-hmm. Hang on, let's see. All right. Share screen. I'm hitting share screen. Share audio. All right, I don't have any audio. Windows. Let me see. Entire screen. Let's try entire screen, see if that works.
Okay.
All right, let me try this. Does that make it kind of crazy? Let's see.
Yeah, I see you. Okay.
How does that look?
I think that works.
Does that work? Okay, let me try to change it and see if it'll change. Ready? Did it change?
Yes, it changed.
Yay! Let's see. Did it change again?
Yes, it did.
All right. Thanks for bearing with us. This is the James party in 9, but these are the kids. And so you heard me talking about my oldest daughter doing the dual enrollment. So if you're listening and you want to do some education, some college before, that's an option while you're in high school. But I do want to remind you, you do have to prepare for that because most states required AccuPlace or some sort of placement test to make sure your high school student is ready. There are some opportunities to do dual enrollment without, but she presented herself to the dean with half the classes done. Okay, because each college or university has a cap on how many classes they're going to transfer over into the department. We did our homework here. And so as a pre-law student, she presented herself in that way. That allowed her to be a 3-time intern. Most kids only have an opportunity to do an intern once in their college experience. But because she had so many classes done, she was presented at the Maryland General Assembly, not 1, not 2, but 3 times as an intern with lots and lots of credits. She landed her high school career at COVID. Y'all know what happened, right? So I had 1 finish in college at COVID and 1 finish in high school at COVID. Mari, my second daughter, just graduated this past May. Top 20 in her university. Homeschool students can do well. You know why? Because they know how to focus. They know how to study the material. In fact, they believe that homeschooling, college is just like homeschooling. You get this 90-minute presentation. That could be like mom and dad. And the rest of the time you spend reading material, learning the material, and coming back ready for the test. Really, really had a great college experience and just home from being cum laude in her university. And then my third daughter, she is a junior. The first 2 went to Salisbury University. The second one is at the University of Maryland. That's my alma mater. She is also there doing a phenomenal job. Just was on the dean's list as well. She's interning. She's doing studio art and graphic design. It takes a lot of portfolio. You can do it. You can help. And I cannot color and cut and paste anything, folks. I want to give you hope. Right? You can get them connected to great curriculums that help them grow. And then my last student who's in college is my son, Lorenzo. He is currently at Liberty University. He's doing his business administration and project management, and he's picking up his carpentry. So he's also getting his carpentry certification, being bused about 30 minutes away from the university. So he's doing a 2-for-1 deal, having a blast out in Lynchburg, Virginia. And then, of course, those are my 3 who are in my homeschool. This is the smallest my homeschool has ever been with 3 kids. So I have my Nini, who is a junior, Leo, who's 8th grade, and Layla, who is in 3rd grade. Did my slide change?
Yes, it did.
Yay! Let's talk about the freshman year, guys. Let's talk about ninth grade. If you're planning for college, career, military, please understand it starts in the very beginning. Selecting courses, choosing a curriculum, particularly extracurricular activities, those things that enhance what it is that your child wants to do. For example, if you have a student who says they want to do robotics, there should be evidence in their extracurriculum and in their what I call unique electives, right? I should see some coding, some C++, some Java C script. I should see some evidence that the kid wants to do computer science or robotics or law or engineering. So be intentional those ninth grade years, those early years, about preparing your student for higher education through extracurricular activities. And also there's study skills, time management, and then let's not forget, when I say study skills, time management, understand that you have to prepare them to be able to study independently, because that's what college is, right? A high school student who is planning to go to college should be able to take the material, go and do it, and bring it back completed. And so I think as homeschoolers, we need to have more practice in that particular area. Creating great transcripts is something you want to do. At HSLDA, we help you out. If you check out our transcript service, it's available. It's very inexpensive, $25. You can have a transcript where the GPA is calculated for you. If you're an HSLDA member, you can also have our audios. Myself and some of my colleagues, we did a 5-part audio series on how to do a great transcript. That is reason enough to join HSLDA, because we're here for you for those skills, because the transcript is the only one piece of communication between you and the college or the university, right? Because you don't get to talk over it. So you need to send that document in that really summarizes who your student is. And writing a course description does not have to be stressful. Most colleges and universities don't want all the details of every single class, but you want records. So copy paste what the publisher is saying about the course you're in, get yourself a little binder book or digital file, and keep a list of all the classes that you're using and the resources that you're using. Most classes, almost 100% of classes, will have a description. That's your course description. You don't have to create it. And so when we move to 10th grade year, pretty much the same thing. But as you begin to hone in on college, career, there are some things that you want to pay attention to. So if your kid is going to the workforce or military, do your research now. Get connected to other people in the military, other people in those career fields. I remember my oldest daughter originally said she wanted to be a physical therapist. She was a junior Olympic gymnast at the time, twisted her ankle, spent a week with a physical therapist. And I encouraged her every single day, interview him, ask him questions. At the end of the week, she says, Mom, I don't want to be a physical therapist. That guy touched my feet all week. I'm just not going to do that. And poof, it was gone. But thank God for homeschooling, right? That we had the opportunity to be exposed to what it is that we said we wanted to do, right? And so I think the homeschool years, these 4 years, particularly while you're in college and high school, are the fastest years of your life. Use them wisely. If you're looking at college, look at if you're going to prepare your kid for the SAT, the ACT, or the CLT, it's totally up to you. Test optional is an option, but you need to do your research now to see what your options are. I always have my kids give me a top 5 university list. I mean, in fact, we're due for a college tour on Thursday of this week, because we are into touring colleges, and the sooner you tour, the better, okay? And then, of course, outside courses, extracurricular, course descriptions. Don't forget about the very important transcript. All are part of being college ready and preparing for post-high school. Which brings me to the 11th grade year. Did you know that colleges only see 9th, 10th, and 11th grade on your transcript? Because when you've sent that transcript in your senior year, everything is IP in progress. Because those classes, in many cases, probably are you don't even have grades on. Some of the best applications go in on October 15th, no later than November 15th. Oh my goodness, we're on November 4th. So if you're looking for merit-based scholarships, those transcripts and applications are already due. So I encourage people to put in an early application. Let's take a look at the 11th grade year. Not only do you need to consider your workforce or in military, you need to consider the training. You need to make sure kids know how to network. They need to understand about the ASVAB and career testing. And then for colleges, we talked about testing, but you also should be looking into research and financial aid, right? College is expensive. So you need to be intentional about what your plan is. And the best place to look, y'all want to know, is on the website of the university. The university loves to give scholarships to their incoming freshmen and to the students that are at their university. Go on the website, use the little search engine, and type out the word scholarships. See what's required. It's never too early. You can create yourself a tracking sheet and begin tracking those scholarships. And then, of course, same assignment, extracurricular activities, course descriptions, and the important transcript. And so as we go on, we're in the 12th grade year, y'all. I'm telling you, the last 4 years of homeschooling goes fast, fast, fast. So when you're planning your senior year, it's all of that. It's academics, it's record keeping. If this is no matter what your plan is. If you're going into the workforce, it's the research, the networking, the training. If you're going into military, it's testing. Please don't forget about the physical preparation that's required for the military. Kids should be out running if they're military bound. And college, you heard me say, college visits. It's never too soon. Testing, applications, financial aid. Hey, let's not forget about that E word, essays, right? The things that is required for college-bound students. If you're entering the workforce, please don't forget about those skills, those soft skills, interviewing. Does your student have a great resume? It could be a resume of volunteering. Homeschool students cannot forget about their volunteering. They're up against public school kids who are required to volunteer. So when the homeschool student shows up, they should have volunteer hours. And I love recommending congressionalaward.org. I love them. I love them because it helps you organize all of your volunteer service really in a nice, neat package. And of course, you have your bronze, silver, and your gold award based on your activity. Check it out. Research, networking, soft skills, you're entering the workforce. And guess what? You still need a recommendation. You need a referral. So students, homeschool students, should be networking with people who they think could give a great referral. And my favorite homeschool student is the student who has a well-done transcript and a well-done resume. They put the two together. They hand it to the person who's doing the letter of recommendation or the referral. People can speak more clearly about the goal of your student when they have those two documents in their hand. So if you're considering trade, technical apprentices, don't think this is easier. It can be harder if you're not careful. You want to get in there and you want to make sure you're prepared. You have the training, you know what's required for the certification and the resources. And of course, your membership at HSLDA. They have a tendency to be harder on homeschoolers because a lot of people who don't finish school hang out in the trades. Guess what? Homeschooling is legal in all 50 states. And so you need to make sure that you hang close to HSLDA to help people in the trades and technical and in apprenticeships understand that homeschooling is legal. Well, if you're entering the military, you're either considering enlistment or military academies, you still need great records. And so again, that notebook that I encourage you to keep in the beginning, put it together now so that you have a list of everything you did and you're able, on our video, we have a member exclusive video that we do for the transcripts for HSLDA. We talk about the transcript being a storybook. Just like any mom or grandma would have a picture book of their student. Well, guess what? This is an academic storybook. And be ready to share the story. And so I'm always ready. I love to talk about my kids and some of the things that they've done and having evidence of that information through record keeping, tests, extracurricular activities, pictures, right? Practical tips, all kinds of things. And of connecting with people who are in the military, particularly if you're looking at military academies, understanding the nomination process, record keeping, tests, and extracurricular activities. There are also college alternatives. Maybe you're considering college, but a community college. Great. Think about it. They can start early. They can start right at the end of their year. It's totally up to you. Look at the admission, get clear about your goals. That does also mean you still research the program, find out what's required and what are the benefits. And there's also what we call CE credit, community education credit, for kids who may not, want to be in a college setting, but may not be ready for the vigor and pace of traditional college. They can start doing some community CE credits in some areas that they may be interested in, computers, all kinds of things. But understand that there's some practical cost reductions where the kids living at home and being able to do college. It's a great alternative, and it's a great way for you guys to experience it together. If you're heading off to a 4-year college, again, everybody has applications. There may be an online application. There may be my favorite Common App, right? Got this Common App. You can go fill it out, and it's one essay, one upload of the transcript, and you're able to talk to several colleges at the same time. But there's a lot of pre-work that needs to be done. You don't want to wait to the last minute. Check out Common App. There's so many practical tips. And then, of course, the transcript fall of the senior year is when it's due. And then, of course, at the end, you'll have final. Do your homework. Know the difference between regular admissions, early action, priority, early decision, or rolling. They all have something different about them. I want you to do some research. You can kind of hit Google and it will tell you everything about it. And that's what I love. Know which college is the first, second, third for your student. It matters. And how you approach the college matters as well. A lot of times my kids, by the time they're in their senior year, they've made some decisions about the college they want to be 1 and 2. And we pursue them, very aggressively. So because why? We want to have merit-based scholarships, which brings us to, and I'm almost done, sources of financial aid. There's scholarships, there's grants, there's loans. You want to have that last on the list: federal, state, private, personal. And then, of course, there's work study. Kids can have an opportunity to work on campus. So you want to get a plan. It's going to be a place they're going to hang out for 4 years. So you need a plan. You need to make sure that if your kids love being far away, they understand that they may not be home for fall break or Thanksgiving. It may be too short of a time for them to come home. Understanding that you have the right kid at the right distance from you to know what will help them be very successful, and also making several trips. And I love doing college tour when colleges are open, because you get a chance to see the students. And I will tell you, they are the best advocates for talking about the good, the bad, the ugly about a university. So I love interviewing students on campus. So now is the time to tour, which also brings me to applying for the FAFSA. Right? The free application of federal student aid. Most scholarships are tied to it. So I challenge you to really, really, really be connected, right? Be connected to what's required and when the due dates are, right? Knowing what your EFC is, estimated family contribution, knowing what SARs are. These are all the acronyms, if you will. Knowing about online registration, when it opens, understanding they need the previous tax years and the deadlines and all of the aspects of it. It's never too soon to begin learning about how to launch your kid to college. If you're applying for non-federal aid, just making sure you are visiting the College Board sites and the private college sites, and that you know the deadlines. It's so important. Deadlines are so important for college. And let your team be a part of it. It's their life and they need to be a part. So 90% of the time I have my team right next to me so that they can see what it takes. And it helps them be a better student too. So HSLDA is here with the resources, customized plans, the transcript service. We're here to support you. We have educational specialists who are helping to kind of navigate what you're seeing on the site. We encourage you. So it's the time for you to join us at HSLDA. We hope to see you. We hope that you'll get connected to our site that's full of resources. And so there's so many reasons to join HSLDA. From the legal assistance, you've met my friend Darren Jones. There's a whole team of legal attorneys who are here and ready to help you. Lobbying presence, educational specialists, resources in the community. We have member discounts, so you want to check out our discount program, and there's so much more. So if you're not an HSLDA member, we encourage you to join us. And if you haven't renewed yet, we encourage you to renew. So I'm ready to answer any of your questions. I'm going to stop my slideshow. I hope those slides were moving for you guys.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Lanissa. So the questions and answers we're gonna put in the end, toward the end of the program. So we can all kind of answer it together. But thank you so much, Lanissa. So
thank you for having me.
Let me give you your sound effects, applause. Awesome. So thank you for jumping in.
My pleasure, friend.
Awesome. All right, great. So I'm just going to put you backstage for a bit. All right, you guys. So apparently I see that my slides weren't moving. So I just want to see I can kind of try it on my end again. Okay, so share. Okay, so I can kind of see what's going on. Okay, let's see. Okay, not from current. Oh yeah, okay, beautiful. All right, so I apologize for the technical difficulties. So I'm just gonna kind of, not gonna kind of say everything again, but I'm just gonna kind of show you just kind of briefly the slides. But basically, so these are the questions that we talked about prior to my presentation. So I, of course, was how do you choose a curriculum? All right, so not gonna go over all this again, but I just want to show the slide in its completion. So you see what it was. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulty. All right, so I'm just going to kind of go over it with you. So should you come back to see the replay, you can see the slides in their entirety. And of course, the replay will be available to you. For those of you on StreamYard right now, you will receive an email with the whole video, so you can see that. And I will also put it up on my social media on my YouTube channel as well. So I just want to play the slides for you so you can see it. Okay, so we're just going to run through these. So a quick reminder as well of what you need in terms of the subjects for your curriculum. All right. And this part with things to think about in setting up your homeschool. Okay, choosing your philosophy is up to you. So finding what's right for your family, the different options that you can choose for your homeschooling. Who's the teacher? Just want to get my pretty animation here. So all these different things here. So faith-based curriculum. So these are the options that are out there. As I was saying, Easy Peasy is a popular one. Ethnic-based, if you want something that highlights your ethnicity more, like Black culture, Asian culture. So these are examples of Black culture and Native American. Not a lot of resources I found with Asian American culture, but correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to put it in the chat. But this is Asian American focus, Hispanic focus. Okay, the types of whether you want something printed, online, or both. Using search engines. So, so we're talking about affordability. You know, if you're worried about how much is all this going to cost, you know, are there free resources? There are free resources that are out there. It will take some research on your part, but they are out there. I did give you some examples of ones that are free, like Math Aids, Khan Academy, things like that. So I just want to put that out there. So here are a list of, so I was talking about online academies. So this is a list of ones that are accredited, which like they're approved by the powers that be in the government. There's accredited and non-accredited academies that you may want to look into. Talk about Spectrum workbooks, so put that on the screen there. Okay, just want to put that out there. So when you come back to the replay, you can see all this fabulous information. So I'm just putting this here for the sake of the replay. So here are some additional resources for you as well. Yes, you can change your curriculum at any time. So if you want to switch, you can switch. You don't have to lock it down. All right, 5 non-negotiables. Assessing strengths and weaknesses. You want to keep track of your child's progress, very important. Some states require you keep a portfolio, so all worksheets, projects, essays, you want to collect all those for your portfolio. Doing a standardized test, which is required in states like New York or Pennsylvania. So for like the more lax states like Texas, That might be something, while it's not required, it may be something you may want to consider to see how your child is doing, and finding something that is grade level appropriate or developmentally appropriate for your child. All right, and that is the end of my slideshow. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay, so let me switch. So I'm on my phone. Let's switch back. All right, okay. Switching back to the laptop. All right, beautiful. So I just wanted to have those slides for you. Should you decide to review these again in the replay, I do apologize for that technical issue there. All right. All right. So that is it for the questions, the 6 questions. So we are coming to the end. So I did say there would be a raffle. So at this point, I am now going to announce the winners of the raffle. Oh, I do not have a drum roll sound effect. Oh, okay, next time. So let me just tell you the winners of the raffle. I guess I should say what the items are. So there's a bunch of goodies here. So Jan Sixt, she was the earlier presenter. So one of her books is Teach Your Child to Learn. So that's part of the raffle there. And there's a bunch of other books and goodies. So, I love doing these raffles. I've done it in the previous times I've done this event. So goodies. All right. So without further ado, let me tell you who the raffle winners are. So the first one is Emma S. from Wisconsin. So congratulations to you, Emma. The next one is Stephen C. from Maryland. So congratulations to you, Stephen. The third one is Nakia B. from Alabama. So congratulations to you, Nakia. And the last one is Tiara W. from Florida. So congratulations to you, Tiara. All right, so that's Emma from Wisconsin, Stephen from Maryland, Nakia from Alabama, Tiara from Florida. Congratulations. You are the 4 lucky winners of my raffle. Yay. All right, so I will reach out to you via email to collect your information, and I will send you your prize. Beautiful. All right, so now we are here. The most the most important part of the show is the question and answer portion. This is where I'm going to bring everybody onto the stage. All right, so Tamara, we have Wally and Lanissa. So this is the part I'm going to bring everybody to the stage. A few people had to leave. Darren had to leave. Jan had to leave. So we will do our best to answer your questions. Okay, ladies, let's do it. Look at that. All Black women. Black power. Love it. All right, so some of your questions, we put them up here in the chat. So unpin. Okay, so some of these were answered already. How do I join? How do parents? Okay. We can answer this one from Rye Beaver. Do parents have to have a teaching license to homeschool?
Nope. It's legal in every single state. You're a parent, get your child, you can homeschool them.
You don't have to have a license.
Nope.
No.
Okay, there you go. It's very simple. All right. I know, Wally, you tapped into it a little bit more, but could you, I guess all of you, can we talk about the difference between homeschooling and unschooling? And I also saw deschooling. Can you tell us the difference between the 3 of those?
Yeah, well, homeschooling and unschooling and deschooling, really are all the same, in my opinion. Because when you come out of traditional school, you're not trying to do school at home. You really need to figure out how homeschooling works for you. And so, when I'm very eclectic, we shut down in December. We do different things in December. It may look very unschool, deschool. I think there's so much talk around unschool, deschool, but I really think when you get a child alongside of their parent, the best thing you can do for them is to unschool, deschool. Because the traditional setting they could go and be in school. Why homeschool them? So I bring them home and I tell them, I say, hey, this is not going to look like anything you've ever done or what your school friends look like, right? Because we're going to make this work for our family. And one tip I want to say and give these ladies an opportunity to share is that when I first started homeschooling, I remember my oldest daughter saying something to me that changed my life. She said, Mom, we have an extra 25 hours a week. She said, because when I was in traditional school, we would be in school all day and then we had homework at night, right? And so kids had an experience of all school all day, all night. So when we started homeschooling, we would get our work done during the day and that freed them up at night. So when they would do sports with some of their school friends, she said they're under so much stress. She said the kids started carrying their backpacks with them. Right? I said, where do you get your backpacks at night? They said, oh, we just want to support our friends who are under so much stress because they do school all day and school all night. So as a family, we were able to get back almost 24 hours of our lives to be able to shape what it is that we wanted to do for our education and the experience. And the kids are really doing well and they're soaring in homeschooling. So in my opinion, as soon as we started homeschooling, we began to unschool, deschool into an environment that worked best for our family. And one last thing, my husband was a police officer and he worked at the time 3 to 11. He wouldn't see the kids, right? Because he had to be to work at 3. And so one of the things we did is we stopped doing school during school hours. Why? Because they needed to spend time with their father to get a chance to know their dad. Whereas when they were in school, they were missing each other. So we really started off our homeschooling in an unschool, deschool. But that doesn't have to mean that you're not college bound.
All right. Wally, were you trying to say something? Oh, I am
Can't
not
hear
hearing
you.
you. We can't hear you. Still can't hear you,
Okay.
girl.
While she's figuring out her sound, I'll share. I had a situation where I was homeschooling my niece for 2 years, and while she was being homeschooled with us, she made a comment at one point where she said, "You do all of the fun things when I'm not here." And I realized what even though she was being homeschooled, she would be dropped off at my house at a certain time. She'd be picked up at a certain time. So we had very specific hours that we had to her homeschool was happening. But in reality, as Lenacia said, our education wasn't just book time. It wasn't just when we're sitting at the table and there was curriculum in front of us. It was what we did as part of our lives. And so some of the things she missed out on is that when we were studying Greek and Roman gods, we did a movie marathon over the weekend. When we were studying the plant cell and the animal cell, that became my daughter's birthday cake. We made a plant cell and animal cell birthday cake. When we were studying now his name escapes me, but the gentleman who founded the city of Chicago, when we were doing Explorers, we went to Chicago for 3 weeks. And I couldn't take her with me because her mother wasn't going to just give up her child for 3 weeks. And so there is a sense of homeschooling it isn't going to look the same, but also there's a time when you need to put down the books. And my understanding of the deschooling part is just putting down the books and just being family, like reconnecting as a family and not necessarily jumping into teacher mode. Like just become mom again, just get to love each other again, get to reconnect. Because if you're coming out of school, your scheduling hasn't really allowed you to there's limited time to just be family. And so, and even when you put other people in that mix, homeschooling can feel like school, because if you limit it to a certain number of hours. And so that idea of deschooling just reconnects you. And my understanding of unschooling is there isn't necessarily a formal curriculum, and all of it is still homeschooling. They're just different things that you're doing as part of your homeschooling. So it isn't those two things aren't separate from homeschooling. They're part of how you either enter homeschooling or a philosophy you're using to homeschool.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Is there any, from Nakia, one of our winners, is there any advice or resources that assist with kiddos on the spectrum regarding homeschooling?
Yes. There's lots of resources. You can homeschool a special needs student. I'm not a special needs expert, but I have some friends who are phenomenal at it. And there's so many resources that we can drop in the chat for you to be able to connect. One of my sons sees a speech pathologist, and he needs extra help in a particular area. And so, what I love about homeschooling, I will say this, is that you have time to put attention around the needs, the special educational needs, right, that particular student has. In the past, my other son, we would have to take out to do speech pathology. Maybe you have a student that needs to see OT or whatever it is. That's part of the education process. So I think that there's lots of resources out there. So maybe at the end, I'll drop you some people who I know, who I love, who are experts in special needs. I have a lot of awesome friends in special needs. EFM, I'm just going to call them out. EFM, Dr. Rochelle is amazing. And her sister, Keisha Berry, Spectrum. In fact, Keisha is my son's speech pathologist, and we do what I call telehealth in the mornings. And it's an opportunity for her to work with my son from across the screen, and it's working, and it's amazing. So you can get help. I don't have any special skills in all the experts, but I am a mom who has a special needs student, and I do homeschool.
That is not an experience that I've had, but I actually just came from a conference this past weekend and talking with some of the experts here. So I definitely say check out your state homeschool group and what resources are available there. But the one thing I will say is every child learns differently, and so we tend to cast a shadow to say that these particular children, not to say that there aren't real concerns that you want to be mindful of, but every child has something we're looking at. And I just say, give yourself patience and get to know like how best your child learns. Because it really means that they learn differently, not that they can't learn, they just learn differently. And so you want to spend time. That's one of the benefits of that idea of deschooling. Spend time getting to know your child from an educational point of view, and how they take in information, how they communicate, so that you can communicate what you need, and the education that you're wanting to give them. And give yourself patience. It is not something you're going to just magically get. So give yourself patience and work through it together.
Yeah, and I'll also add, what I was saying before about, shout out to Dr. Rochelle. I know who you're talking about. But in regards to resources that are available, what I was saying before about doing your own research. So the thing with schools was that a lot of those things were provided as part of the school. So if you are homeschooling, you will have to find private resources, which you can do. So you can go to, I believe, a neuropsychologist, which can do the assessment. There's speech pathologists that you can go privately. So all these different types of doctors, you can go on your own under your insurance. So that's something you may want to look into if your insurance will cover something like that, or talk to your pediatrician. But all of these things that you can access privately. So you don't have to go through a public school or any kind of school to do that. You can do these things privately. So if you are interested in having your child evaluated for any learning disabilities, my recommendation would be, although some will say go straight to a neuropsychologist first, because but I would say start with your pediatrician, and see what they say. Look into a neuropsychologist that can do the assessment. So you can do all those things privately. So those are my 2 cents on that. Okay, so we answered this question in the chat, but I just wanted to put it out there for everyone. Can you join more than one co-op? There is minimal things for kids to do in our area. So I may have to do an out of town one. I saw Tamara,
Yeah.
you answered it.
I'd answer. Of course you can. Please be mindful. You still have schoolwork to do. So my first year, we were everywhere. We ran around going to this event, and it wasn't all like, we did have a regular weekly co-op, but we were constantly going to events and going to connect with other people. And it took us about 3/4 into the second year homeschooling to finish our math curriculum because we were never home. So just be mindful as you don't want to fill up your schedule so much that you're not actually doing schoolwork. So watch out for that. It can be a lot of extracurricular stuff, and you're not handling the main stuff like reading, writing, math, spelling, typing. So you want to give yourself space for that if you're considering joining too many, and really look at what is the purpose for me joining this co-op. Is it that you need friends? Because one of the things we found was that in all of those activities, we recognized we were doing so many different things that we didn't have a chance to see the same people consistently, which doesn't build friendship. Yeah. So one group of consistent people that are close to you, that you can hang out with outside of the group, is way better than joining a bunch of groups where they see people occasionally for an hour or two once a week. So consider doing that. And there are plenty of activities, maybe not official homeschool ones, but we have a regular parenting magazine in our county. I was looking at events there, and I met a lot of homeschoolers at those events, though it wasn't a homeschool event. The libraries, we would look up all the libraries in our county and see what they were doing. And again, met a lot of homeschoolers there, although it wasn't advertised as a homeschool event. So, and consider things that are not necessarily education. They can just be local community activities that you'll find a lot of homeschoolers will find stuff to do. And if we're looking for a resource, we don't care what they call it. We're going to go to it. So we've had kids at adult book clubs because they wanted a book club. And so consider going outside of the what's considered educational activity or educational groups, and look more into what's available in your community. And really consider, like, can we build solid friendships here as opposed to just going to see people?
Yeah. I have to agree. That's so good. Tamara, so good to put a face with a name. And I totally agree. I always say, go to your state conference. Of course, I'm biased. We're with MACHI, the Maryland Association of Home Educators, but the state conferences are places to meet other homeschoolers, and it's a place to bring other homeschoolers with you. But I love what you said, Tamara, that really resonates with me and what I've learned over these 2 decades of homeschooling. It's the friendship piece. I think that there's this thought that just because traditional school kids are around 2,000 kids, that they have friends. Kids could be around 2,000 kids and barely have one, right? Most of us have come through college and could barely figure out one friend that we still stay in contact with. So I really had to help my kids sit down and understand what we were after. We were after, koinonia, fellowship with individuals. And so we were able to pick those individuals that we can connect with. Because, there was a time we were part of a co-op that was so big, we still didn't have friends. because you get moving about and you can't make those connections. And I think that's what kids look for. And I love what you said, Tamara, about finding one group, because it mirrors the longevity of that 9-month relationship that most kids are kind of looking for, that you see the same kid. You work out the good, the bad, the ugly, instead of kind of jumping all over the place. I find that the kids suffer most when parents jump all over the place to different co-ops, because they never get a chance to connect. And here's what's funny. The kids keep up with each other. I'm just telling you from the other side, okay? I have kids that are grown. We've been blessed to have run a co-op in our local city. And the kids still keep up with the kids who used to be in co-op, because kids want to connect. And because, with social media, they're like, oh, yeah, you remember blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just so profound. And I just, I wish that parents would be more mindful of the children before they jump around different co-ops, because kids want to connect with other kids. So that's just my 2 cents.
Awesome. Okay, on that, I'll just share this. So I texted Darren that question. I said, can people join more than one co-op? He said yes. Just check with each one. We had our older kids in one and younger kids in a separate one. And so I clarified, can one student join too? And he said yes, as long as it's okay. So then I said, do they really need to know? And he's like, if I were a co-op leader, that's something I would want to know. Just because some co-op give homework, if a kid's excuse for not doing it is I was at another co-op and didn't have time, I'd want to know up front. So I said, is that an acceptable excuse? And he said that would be up to the co-op. Some are very strict and will penalize for late homework. Others are more flexible. If it's an assignment, like give a speech that's missing, it's going to be frowned upon than just routine math work. If it's a 4 or 5 day a week co-op, constant missing assignments could get you expelled because they tend to operate like schools. So I just wanted to share that little tidbit there from Darren Jones, who spoke earlier about co-ops.
Yeah, let me add, Gabrielle. It's such a great point that he makes. We, as I mentioned, I run classical conversations communities all over. I cover from Maine to DC, and as our kids get older, one of the things that we ask parents, like, is your child involved in any other programs? Because we've had kids who, like, they're leaving early because they have a sports team event. Well, if we have debate, or we're doing mock trial, or we're doing science fair, we're depending on you to be there. So we do want to know that, and we want to have that conversation up front, so that we're not setting up our classroom for unmet expectations where students are depending on another student's participation, and then they are just leaving, or they're tired. I once had a student who had joined our program and was also doing an entirely separate curriculum, because mom had the misunderstanding that we were just a social thing, although she bought all these books. She bought science and history and all these books, and somehow didn't recognize we were an academic community. And he ended up dropping because he was doing double the work, and she just wanted a place for him to go. She was doing all this other stuff online, and it just doesn't work. It stresses the student out. It sets up unrealistic expectations for the classroom, and it can cause problems. So it's not that you can't do it, but are you getting the most out of all of those programs?
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Micro schools. What is a micro school? You guys want to talk about that?
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Leave that.
It's a new phenomenon. It's something that's new in the homeschool movement. I'm certainly no expert on micro schools, but I do know a lot of friends who have micro schools. It reminds me of, the tutorial, what we call as homeschoolers tutorial. But after the pandemic, there's been a big rise of micro schools, due to many grant funding available for them. And it also meets a need for someone who says, hey, I work, or I'm unable to physically be alongside. There was a time where people were working virtual. Well, they don't have that flexibility now, particularly in our communities. And you're seeing a big rise in micro schools. And so I'm getting to understand the mindset behind it. Again, you do want to, talk with HSLDA attorneys to find out, the legalities of your particular state, because it's different from state to state. There's some people who are micro schools and, it's totally government funded. And there's some people in micro schools who are homeschoolers, who just have, a place to go more than one day a week. So there's so much, you have to do your homework, and it's definitely on a rise. And so it's something for, families to really look into before they jump into, so that they know what fits best for their family. I know for me personally, I seek to homeschool my kids. And so I too limit the amount of out of the house activities, because we homeschool. Like, I count the days we're home, so our Tuesday, Thursday, Friday are precious to me, because that's the time for me to have my distracted voice around the education of my children, which is ultimately my goal. So, but so there's so many things out there. And if I were working and I had no other option, right, for traditional public school, perhaps, micro school would be something. So I think it's one of those things that people have to look into and figure out what works for them. But I know I'm biased. I prefer homeschooling, so, and I want my kids to see myself and my husband as the primary education givers, home, directed, parent directed education. That means a lot to us. And so every parent has to figure out what works best for them.
Yeah. So what I will say, why I was stepping back from it, is that is a consistent. I run the Westchester Homeschoolers Facebook group, and it's got about 2,000 parents in there, and that becomes a fight of, are you a homeschooler or are you not a homeschooler? And what I would say, when those concerns and discussions come up, is that for it the concern behind those who are home, want to be the primary teacher for their kids, there's a concern of what laws may or may not change as a result of some of the new ways that people are wanting the new alternatives outside of public, traditional schools, public or private, and how it might affect those of us who want to be in charge of our children's education, where we're running it. We decide what's happening, as opposed to hiring someone to do so. So I want to put that out there, so we're all parents who love our kids and want the best for our kids, and there's a group of us that want to protect the right and responsibility and the authority that we have, and don't want to lose that. And so we respect all those who are just looking for, I want the best for my kid too, and I can't do it that way. I can't do what you're doing, Tamara. I can't do what you're doing, Lanacea, but I wanna have something different than a traditional school. So definitely look out for what you can do. I don't hold back from wanting you to have that, and I want to protect what it is that we have.
So is there a controversy? Because I was doing like a quick Google search, because I didn't know what it is, but it's pretty much they can be organized, just according to Google here. They can be organized as licensed private schools, unaccredited non-public schools, or shared learning opportunities for homeschooled children. They could also meet in homes, churches, or storefronts. I see in terms of funding, they're funded through a mix of tuition fees and state-funded school choice programs. So is there
so some of the arguments, some of the issues that come up, and some of it is just pure old division, who it's like the nursing mom and the non-nursing mom, the tradition, the non-medicated birth and the C-section. Like, some of those are just regular one against the other issues. But there are some concerns as to what constitutes you actually homeschooling. Like, how much of the work are you as a parent doing, and how much is being done by someone else, which then steps into some regulations that may be required. And so if an idea like microschooling is classified under homeschooling and the parent is not the one primarily providing the education, then there gets to step in some regulations as to, well, you need to provide insurance for this, and you need to do this, and you need to do, there are other regulations that come in when someone else is in charge of other people's children, that is for safety issues, for insurance issues, that homeschoolers haven't had to deal with because our kids are at home with us for most of the time, or if we're going out, we're still with them. So there's not the safety concerns there. So it's just the possibility. And that's why I held back from a little bit, but the possibility of what could occur legally with this new movement and how it could change what we're allowed to do as homeschoolers and what regulations could then happen for us as homeschoolers. So it's not it's more out of protection of what we have, like I said, not but some of it's just plain old, oh, you do this and I do that, and so we can't be friends.
So this is new to me. So is it just if you register you do all the paperwork for homeschooling, but then you put them in a micro school, is it like, well, there's a conflict of interest in that this might be technically considered a school, like, funded by like a government or something, but you enrolled your child into homeschooling? So is it like a conflict of interest?
I think that's a legal question, quite frankly,
Right.
because it can vary from state to state. It just depends on what the law is. You're in New York. What's happening in New York is not happening in Maryland. And Tamara, where are you?
I'm in New York as well.
New York, right. So things could be different depending on what state you're in. And I think that's the danger of the internet sometimes, is that you're getting some basic information, but it may not be applicable to your state. So you really have to, I think, do your own due diligence here in making sure that you're getting the right information for the state you live in and where you're homeschooling. And, it's another plug for HSLDA for you to be able to connect with them to find out what's possible, for the state you're in. And it's so funny. We see stuff online and we're like, oh, this is great, but it may not be great for you, right? Maryland, we have these portfolio reviews. And so we're all into the paper, right? Kill those trees and get that paper in front of the portfolio review, and you could live right in Virginia, and Virginia wants to do testing, right? Okay, so you have testing in Virginia. And so if you're following one is following the other, this is where we get ourselves in a little bit of trouble here, because paper doesn't matter from the portfolio standpoint in Virginia, but it does in Maryland. And so I think it's these parents' responsibility to know the state that they live in and how their state is handling these topics.
Right.
All right. Awesome. Quick comment. Still on micro schools. Okay. So far my understanding is that micro schools are ran by a certified teacher who can also be a parent, and is smaller group size to personalized education plans. That is from Sandy B. Thank you, Sandy, for that input.
And every micro school is not ran by a certified teacher. So you have to do your homework there.
So definitely. So that goes into doing your own research and finding out about these things. Okay, this one here. Are there scholarships to help provide teaching materials? Maybe in the sense of maybe if you can't really afford it. I know I mentioned before, there are materials that are free. You don't have to pay for a lot of those. But I don't know if you guys know of any scholarships that are out there.
We have a compassion department at HSLDA that's available. They certainly can go. They do compassion grants for curriculum. It's a needs-based, definitely we're doing a lot right now for hurricane, the 2 hurricanes back to back. So there are things, out there. It just depends on the circumstance. But you can homeschool at the library, as far as I'm concerned. You can go and have never purchased a book. And it seems I did that one year. I'll never forget. And I learned how long I could keep a book out at the library. And I knew I had to turn it back in for a certain time that I could take it back out, So, so there are things out there for you. I think parents have to be creative. There's so many things you can get online as well, things you can print down. But in terms of scholarships, private education is just that, it's private. And so, there are scholarships from private people, but once you start reaching beyond that, then it's no longer private. So,
right. Yeah, there are VELA, VELA. They are a grant-based organization that does support homeschool families. It is based on need. There's another organization, it escapes me, Gabrielle, I'll get you this information as soon as I can find it, but it's pretty much like a GoFundMe for homeschoolers and to provide curriculum assistance. There are some states that do give homeschoolers money. That's a whole nother conversation, but it is there, depending on the state that you live in. I know Arizona, Florida, Maine, Vermont, Alaska are a few of those that do offer educational. It's actually not necessarily homeschool money, but they're educational savings accounts, and you can use them for homeschooling. I won't get into the conversation about that, but depending on the state you live in, that may be available in your state.
Okay, it is out there. I'll share this comment here from Tiara. Again, another one of our raffle winners. She said there's one in Florida called Step Up for Students. So just want to share that out there for any Floridians watching. All right, let's see. What's the next one? You can join more. Very informative. Okay, where's everyone located? Okay, I think we kind of answered it, but can you pull your child out mid-school year? Next question.
Absolutely. It's your child.
Anytime you want.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. You can homeschool. Most states require you can homeschool at any time you decide. There are some places, things you need to consider, particularly if you're pulling a high school student out mid-year. You want to be mindful of the classes that they're taking and the credits that they've earned. I always encourage high school students who have began working on a particular credit to finish it, in their homeschool. I think with all things considered, I don't think a student should have to sit through traditional education if it's not working for them. And so I think that having a community of support, a great, a homeschool 101 like this, there's a lot of support out there. And listen, we're approaching the holidays. This is where people make a decision that they're not doing it anymore. They're not sending their kids to traditional school, and they decide to homeschool mid-year. And so we're here to support that mid-year homeschooler, and it is definitely doable. And for many, it's been one of the best decisions they've ever made because it changes the trajectory of the education for the student in a way that can be very positive, particularly when you have parents involved. We just really believe that parents are the best advocates for their own children. I mean, when you come through labor and delivery, you know what's best. And I don't think that changes just because your child has gotten older. And I always say, if your kid doesn't know algebra, it's still mom and dad's problem anyway. No matter if they went to a traditional school, it's your job to find tutors and outside resources. And so being able to help your child learn, I think, is part of a healthy responsibility as parents. Because you know them best, their work ethic, everything about them. I've had teens, lots of them, and I get a chance to observe really what's going on with them that a teacher would never know. So, but the answer to your question is yes, you can.
I'm just gonna say ditto.
But I think is it safe to say that you want to officially sign them up for homeschooling and not just pulling them out and sitting at home?
Well, depending on the state, you definitely need to withdraw your child from school. Right. That you need to officially, if they're in school, you need to officially withdraw them. Otherwise, you run into a whole bunch of other legal situations of your child they're registered and not showing up. So you do need to officially withdraw them. But depending on the state you live in, there may or may not be a requirement to notify them that you're homeschooling.
That's an HSLDA question, and it is different for all states. And so you do need to know your state law, because that intent to homeschool for many states, you guys live in New York, it's the toughest place to homeschool. And, there are requirements, right? You just don't kind of pull your kid because there's probably that 180-day rule that happens in most states. And so they're counting. And so I think, again, going to the www.hslda.org, and getting some serious legal advice about that. I think it's important. I really do. I know my husband had a security clearance, and he was not going to be playing any games with me learning from the girl in the park about what we could do with his kids, mind you, right? He's like, is this legal? Don't have the police at my door. I said, honey, you are the police. He said, well, don't have my coworkers at my door talking about you talking to the girl at the park. So I just think that it's important as parents. I think it's a responsibility to know what you can do for your state and make sure that you're protecting your child to the best of your ability. So, yeah. I remember when I first started homeschooling, like I said, it's almost been 20 years ago. We were like, can we go out during the day? Right. And inevitably somebody would stop you and say, oh, honey, shouldn't you be in school? You don't seem sick, and really preparing kids for what that experience is like so that you don't become offensive. I had to train my children to say, hey, we homeschool. Yeah, we're excited about it. Because people just stop you. And then, of course, when you're like me, you got a lot of kids. People stop you anyway. Right? And they're like, oh, those kids yours? But they do stop and they will ask the question. Yep. And sometimes when the kids don't know, and parents, if you're watching and you put your kids in traditional school and you take a doctor's appointment, people are asking your kids too, right? You're out just for a doctor's appointment. So I just think that as parents, we need to, do our work to help kids understand why you're doing what you do and get them engaged in it. I love doing that with my teens and my little people. And they will tell you all about homeschooling. Stop one of my kids. They got a whole dissertation for you.
Awesome. All right, let's see what else we have. Study assistance, study moms. Stupid unschooling. Let's see. We need fundamental class. Okay. Scholarships. Okay, let's see. Being 12. Okay. Oh, here's one. Okay. Is there minimum hours you have to homeschool on a daily or school year basis? That one is from Nakia.
Depends on your state. And in a state like New York, it depends on your student's grade level. So I said this earlier, the more you know your state regulations, the less stress you will feel when you're dealing with this. I remember I forgot. I do read them I literally read them every summer just to make sure like something's not going to change over the next year. But I forgot when I was doing the paperwork to change the number of hours on my son's report because he was changing grades, and that next grade had a higher number of required hours. And they sent me a letter back and said, this is an insufficient number of hours. And it's not that I wasn't going to do them. I just forgot to change it on the paper. So please, 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 please read your state regulations, know them, because it's when you get those questions, it's when someone pushes back, you start to feel that fear. But when you know, oh no, section so-and-so says this, and even if you don't know what section it's in, when you know you can go and look it up and copy and paste and send it back to them, that it just creates a lot less anxiety when you know what you should be doing, when you should be doing it. You know that you have records. Even if you have a state that doesn't require records, you should keep some records of your child's education, if nothing else, to help you build your transcript later on. But definitely look at your regulations and look at them per year, not just look at them once and then think that there's the same when you started. Your child was only 7 and now your child's 13. The requirements may not be the same.
All right, there you have it. There was something about dual enrollment. Yes. Can you guys talk about dual enrollment? What that is? Is it possible? And as a homeschooler?
Absolutely. Dual enrollment is basically, some people call it concurrent enrollment, where you are a high school student and you're taking college classes at a community college. Some are online, some are in person. Usually, I mentioned this, they will require an AccuPlacer, particularly the ones that are in the community that are live. They want to make sure that you're testing, quote unquote, on a college level. So you have to do your homework, but there's so many options. There's dual enrollment options that you don't have to take an AccuPlacer. that you can do online. And it's an opportunity for you to get college credit. Now, does everything transfer? It depends on the college it's going to. And I think sometimes, there's good and bad to dual enrollment. I think sometimes there's this fallacy that you have so many dual enrollment credits that the university that you're going to will take them. Well, they have a cap too of how much they're going to take as a transfer. So I think it's important for parents to do their homework about dual enrollment. I think to be intentional and not make your dual enrollment a substitution for homeschooling. Still homeschool your child. And make sure that it's a good fit. And also some people who are doing in-person dual enrollment, you find yourself with a lot of older students that might not be a good fit for your student. So, we had one of our first daughters who we did dual enrollment, and she obviously maxed out of what she could transfer into her university. And I had my second daughter who I didn't do dual enrollment with, because the downside to dual enrollment is that when you show up to the university, particularly as a freshman, you have 2 and 3 and 400 level classes. And so you don't always have that freshman experience when you dual enroll too much, So you really need to be intentional and you need to be strategic. And just like when you started homeschooling, I think you need to get the why behind the dual enrollment. And I think dual enrollment can also be very emotional, right? We want to show the world, that our kid is on when my mom, I get to tell you this story, it's hilarious. When I first started homeschooling, my mom was like, "You're homeschooling my grandchildren?" That was code word to it better be good. It better be better than what's going on in these private schools. And so there was a responsibility that I had, right? And so I told my daughter, "You're going to be a doctor and a lawyer so I can stay out of trouble with my mama." It's funny. So for some of you, it could be your spouse, it could be your neighbor, so sometimes we get into dual enrollment for the wrong reasons, right? And it puts on too much unnecessary pressure for the students. So I think we need to be intentional, about why we're doing enrollment, what our goals are, and it's never too soon to look to see how those dual enrollment classes will transfer, because then it doesn't become a money saver, particularly if those classes won't transfer. So it requires homework, and homework school is never out for the pro.
I'm gonna throw a bit of a plug in here for Classical Conversations. One of the things I think is a huge benefit of our program is that our students, the high school program is our challenge program, and our students actually don't take any additional coursework. They do this. You can have 2 children sitting in the same program. They're both doing the exact same work. One of them have chosen to submit that work to the college and get college credit for it, but they're both getting the same college level material and college level education. It's just that one of them is choosing to get additional, to get actual grades from the college, and they will receive college credit for it. So they've paid a little bit more money, but they're both getting the same quality education. It's one of the things I really appreciate about our program is that it has been recognized as college credit worthy. But if you choose not to pay for it because maybe you're not on a college track, or your child just doesn't want the added stress of getting a grade back from a professor or having a professor look over their work, they are still getting the same college level education. So I want to just throw that out there for our Classical Conversations program. It's our CC Plus program.
All right. Awesome. I think that's it for the questions here. All right, so let me just I'll just throw this out there for you guys. So both of you are homeschooling moms, so is there, if you could do something over again, would you?
I would have started sooner. I began homeschooling, and it really, my daughter was in the 2nd grade. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy spending time with my children. I honestly, my life was supposed to be in my early ideas of marriage and family. I was supposed to be the cool auntie that had all the money and that got all the kids for fun times, and then sent them back to their families. Decided to be a mom, and I still thought, okay, I'm gonna have my kids do my time. I was literally saying I'm gonna do my time with them at home and then go back to work. But when I went back to work, something switched in my brain, and I wish I would have. I came home initially at some point. I think for first grade, I was home with her, and I wish I would have just had the courage to have started homeschooling sooner. Now that my daughter's in college, I'm grateful for the fact that we're still close. I have another friend who their daughter also is a freshman in college this year. They didn't homeschool. It's not to say that because you don't homeschool, you don't have a close relationship with your children. I'm not saying that. But remember, we connected about a month after our girls had left, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, do they call you? Does she call you?" I say, "Yeah, we talk every day." And it's not because like I'm chasing her down. Like she wants to share things with me. She wants to tell me about what's going on, and it's been such a joy as I look back. I wish I would have done it sooner with her. I'm grateful. This is what my son knows. It's all he's ever known. I had those moments where I'm like, boy, you're going to public school, but we've stuck with it. And that's one thing I would have changed. I also, I do wish I could have traveled more, internationally. That's one thing. We're changing that with my son, and my daughters get to, when she's on break and over the summer, she'll come with us. But I do wish I would have traveled. I got to travel more internationally as we were homeschooling.
All right, Lanessa, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of ditto everything you're saying, Tamara. So much of what you're saying is so much of my situation too. We did start road schooling for the pandemic in 2020, 2021. My husband got a 33-foot RV, and we put the family on the road. International, I think, is great. That is a good goal to, help them leave the country. But being able to reset my homeschool for the road, I did within this past, say, 4 or 5 years, which gave me less time with my older kids. They didn't have as much road schooling as this new, we call them big bunch, baby bunch. My baby bunch had more of that. So I would have, loosened up more and got out on the road and did more road schooling. I think that's the only difference. But the relationship is precious if you put that time in and you get a chance to see what the needs are of your student, your child. It's priceless. We had a big loss in our family. We lost both of my in-laws, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. And this was about 8 years ago. And I just cannot imagine where we would be if we didn't have the gift of home education and what we've had to do to navigate through that very difficult time. We just had a big celebration at our home church. And I was just really reflecting on how homeschooling has been a big part of the healing process. And I know Dr. Cheryl Field-Smith is doing some research on that and the healing that comes through. I think that's for those who are not homeschooling. I think that's what you're missing. I think you're missing the opportunity for you to sit back and really think through the why you do what you do, kind of. And so we have created a legacy of children who are ready to take on the torch that I don't think that they would have been prepared for. When my husband and I lost his parents, we said, hey, we could either do this alone or we can have the children very participatory in this and they learn alongside. And what it became, how my son got into loving construction and working with his father. And now he's, getting this certification in carpentry along with his degree. It became my daughter, who's the artist, who had more opportunities to paint than most kids. Or like my other daughter, who had time to do biology on the beach, which happened to be a pontoon ride from the university she took. And can I tell you what that looked like in the essay? I think people in colleges and universities are looking at the holistic approach of students, and they're not getting that kind of time. I think even in traditional school, they're looking at asynchronized days after the pandemic because they see the value and, and what helps for students mentally to be able to have time to be human. Our kids are moving like full-time workers, y'all, and we need to look closely at the important aspect of helping kids be kids. Just, I could go on forever. I am extremely biased about home education, but I will say to you that if there was anything that I missed was my daughter, who spent those first years through her 4th grade in traditional school. That was wasted time for us. We should have homeschooled all the way through. So there you have it.
All right, beautiful. All right, we're gonna wrap this up here. Words of wisdom. Tamara, any final words of wisdom you want to share?
There is no clock that says you have to start at a certain time or end at a certain time or educate on certain days. It's the beauty of homeschooling. So because you have the time, give yourself a break. Like there's no need to rush. If they're not on reading level this year, they'll get there because you're going to put in the work. The comparison of where they should be because the school's district says that they should be here. The school district can't get half their kids there. So comparing your kid to them, it doesn't make any sense. But honestly, give yourself time to figure it out for each student, particularly if you have more than one. You've got to figure out 4 and 5 and or 2 and 3 different kids. Give yourself time. And I will say, find yourself a set of friends. I know we're so interested in socialize, making sure our children have social outlets. We need that too. We need to know that we have a group of people, or at least one person we can go to get some advice, or just to cry or to yell. Apart from our spouses, they can take that too. But you want somebody who's in it with you on a day-to-day basis, someone who's also homeschooling. So find yourself a set of friends, give yourself a break, and make time for you. I will say that the times where I have found the greatest joy and ease in homeschooling is when I was learning something myself, and my kids would come up and sit down beside me and say, "Hey, Mom, what you doing?" And at this particular, what comes to mind vividly, I remember learning geography, and I was drawing a map of Africa, trying to learn. I was going to teach a geography camp, and I'm learning this map of Africa and all the countries in the States. And they crawled into my bed on a Sunday night and sat next to me. And then my son ended up coloring Africa. My daughter ended up doing a crossword puzzle of Africa, and geography became a love for us. Not because I was forcing it, not because it was an intended lesson, because on a Sunday night, I was endeavoring to do something for myself, and they just wanted to spend time with me. So it became something we did as a family. That's where some of the most beautiful times of learning have happened, is because they saw learning as something that I enjoyed, and they wanted to just spend time with me. So we enjoyed learning together.
Vanessa, what about you?
Yes, I love everything you said, Tamara. I would say similar. Move at the speed of your family. I was on 1,000 Hours Outside with Jenny Uridge, and kids need to get outside. Parents need to get outside and move at the speed of your family. My season is different than it was when I first started homeschooling. People say, "How do you do it?" I was like, "I don't got a bunch of babies. Y'all do, right?" I've been there, done that, got a t-shirt, still got some Pampers hanging around the house, just you got to move at the speed of the family that you have, and know that it's a gift. God gives you a gift to be a parent. He says, "Children are the heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." It's a reward. Treat it like a gift. And the season you're in, let it be your season. And so if you're in a season where you have a lot of babies and one homeschooler, then you have a lot of babies and one homeschooler, right? I've been there, right? And so you're distracted, right? You're doing this, you're doing that. You got eyes here, eyes here. That's a season. I think sometimes parents break down and they miss that precious time because it doesn't last forever. Or if you're in a season where your kids are super active, you got all of these kids, right, who are in, middle school, high school, that's a season that you're in. And then, of course, when you have young adults, right, that's another season. Or you have college students. I have so many college students, I couldn't figure out which student was calling me. What school you go to? What's the question? It's the season. And so falling in love with the season that you're in and moving your life at the speed of your family is the best thing you can do. And of course, I love what you're saying. Self-care is so important, and getting outside is so important. And when all else fails, go on a field trip. Just go on a field trip.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Field trip. And And when you get out there, you find that everybody else is on a field trip. And you're thinking, why was I home? Everybody's on a field trip. Take a field trip.
Awesome. Well, this was amazing. Thank you guys for all of your feedback and answering all of these questions. So we're going to do the promotion part now. So I'm just going to put y'all backstage and then bring you back out. So thank you guys again for helping me with this question and answer portion. So all of you watching right now or listening later, I hope you guys got a lot from this entire webinar. So we gave you a wealth of information to pick through. So I hope you guys are taking the time, learning all this information and getting the work started. So ladies, I will put you backstage for a bit and then I will pull you back out. So thank you guys again for that. All right, you guys. So thank you again. So now I'm going to give my panelists the opportunity to promote themselves. So a few of them had to leave. So I'm just going to go ahead and just share their information. Okay, so the first one was Waletha Garrett. She had to run, but I'm just going to share her information. So she has two websites. One is clapperapp.com/the product pusher. And the second one is www.affiliategirlof2023.store. So I encourage you guys to go to those two pages and learn about all that she has to offer. She also has some social media. So she is on Facebook. The account name is wally.nelson.54. She is on Instagram as the product.pusher. She also has a YouTube channel, Affiliate Girl 2023, and she is on TikTok, which is, I'm just waiting for that to come passed on, the product pusher. So I encourage you guys to follow Wally on all of those social media accounts and visit those websites to learn more about all that she has to offer. So Darren and Lanissa are from the same organization. So I'll let Lanissa talk about the HSLDA, but particularly Darren, he himself is an attorney. So if you have any like legal questions about homeschooling, you can hit him up. So his email is darren@hslda.org. The phone number, this is the main phone number for HSLDA. It is 540-338-5600. So I wanted to share that from Darren, but I will bring Lanissa back on to talk about the HSLDA in a minute. All right, Jan Sixt, she was the one with the teaching strategies that you can use. She is on Facebook and Instagram as My JS Tutor. So I encourage you to follow her there. She talked about her YouTube channel, Jan Sixt Tutor 1. So make sure you subscribe to her YouTube channel as well. And if you have any questions that you want to pose to her, her email is jstutor@gmail.com. So make sure you guys are taking advantage of that. Oh, Tamara just left. Oh, okay. All right, let me see if I can grab her. But Lanissa, I'm going to bring you back on just to talk about, if you can talk, oh, my voice, if you could talk more about HSLDA.
Yes, I thank you so much for the opportunity to share. This has been great. And I really encourage you guys to consider home education. Home education really does make a difference. And at HSLDA, we just want to be a resource, come alongside you as you make the decision to homeschool. We're advocates for homeschooling, making sure it's legal in all 50 states. And so we're here to support you. If you go to www.hslda.org or call our office at 540-338-5600. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It has been my pleasure to share. And we really appreciate all your hard work today with this great Homeschool 101 event. We pray it blesses lots and lots of families.
Thank you, Lanissa. All right, beautiful. So I'll just add this quick Okay. I'll just add this quick thing about the HSLDA. So I'll just put up, let me sit back here. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and X, which some of us still call Twitter, HSLDA. So follow them on all those platforms as well. And the website that we have brought up repeatedly is hslda.org. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And again, the general phone number is 540-338-5600. So I wanted to make sure that information is out there. And unfortunately, Tamara Somerville had to run. I have kept these people for so long. So I'll just do her promo here. Okay, so she mentioned it, Classical Conversations. You can learn more about that if you are interested homeschooler. So the website for that is www.classicalconversations.com. For those of you in Westchester, New York, she has a Facebook group called Westchester Homeschoolers. So I encourage you to join that group if you are in the Westchester County. Her email is tnsomerville@gmail.com, and her phone number is 914-512-7644. So if you have any questions about homeschooling, particularly if you are in New York State, you can reach out to her. You can email her, or you can call or text her. So I wanted to share that information as well. And she also has a book. Let me make sure to share this out. Tamara has a book called African American Families, Why We Homeschool. So she has a book out. It is on Amazon. So you can purchase that book on Amazon right now. The link is on the screen, but it will also be in the description, depending on whatever medium you're taking the replay in. But African American Families, Why We Homeschool, Tamara is I believe she's a co-author of that book. It is available now on Amazon, so please go purchase that book as well. Okay, great. All right. So that is it for Homeschooling 101. Thank you for joining me at this event. So, of course, let me talk about myself. So I will share my information, my company's information. A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. I'm tongue-tied today. So A Step Ahead Tutoring Services is my tutoring company. So we're the ones that have put on this event for you. So as we're talking about homeschooling, one of the things that you can incorporate into your homeschooling curriculum is a tutor. So depending on your state, you're allowed to seek the services of a tutor. So if you don't necessarily want to do the teaching yourself, you want to outsource, one of the things you can do to outsource is getting a tutor. So that is where we come in. So we can be that resource for you. So the website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You go to the website, there's a list of services that are there. We do one-on-one tutoring, we do test prep, college counseling. So we do a variety of different things. So we are in person if you happen to be in New York City or Long Island, but we do offer online tutoring as well across the United States. So wherever you are viewing this or listening to this right now, hit us up. Let our tutors help you. The website again, www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You can also find us across social media. We're pretty much all over the place. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We are all over the place. So just put A Step Ahead Tutoring Services and we will pop up. I personally am on Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, the account name is Gabrielle.Critchlow. So if you want to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I personally am on there as well. All right, you guys. I also want to encourage you, if you are, so later on the replay will be available. But if you happen to be watching this on social media or you're listening to this on a podcast, please take 5 minutes and give us your feedback about this webinar. So please put the comments in the comment section, give us a rating, rate us on imdb.com, right? So when you see it in the public, please take 5 minutes and give us your feedback. That will be very helpful to my company. All right, you guys, and that is it. Thank you again for joining me for yet another year of Homeschooling 101. I hope you guys took a lot from this because we gave you a lot. So all of these resources are available to you. You can always rewatch this. You can watch the replay. Those of you here on StreamYard, I believe an email will be coming to you. But for those of you watching this later on, I will put this up on my social media as well as my podcast. So this, you can always re-listen to it again, and I will replay it. So thank you. This was awesome. Thank you, Nakia. Yes. So this webinar will be available to you, right? So the replay will be available one way or another. You can always rewatch this. So thank you guys again. And that is it for me. Bye. Wait. Yes. Bye.